Well, hey, everybody. Hello from St. Louis, Missouri. Welcome to Baby Lock Sip and Serge Livestream. We are so excited that you are going to be joining us this afternoon. We have a fun afternoon event planned for all of you, and I know that you're going to learn a lot, be entertained. So we're going to give you just a few minutes to get everybody to hop on. Our broadcast goes from noon today until 3, and there's going to be live action throughout. So get super comfortable. And I also want to invite everybody, if you haven't checked out your local Baby Lock retailer, so many of them are hosting watch parties at their store. So if you're driving in your car and you're watching this, just find out where a close retailer is and hop in there and watch the event from there. Now, I also want to make sure that I mention that you can join this broadcast and share it with anybody. You can find access to it on the Baby Lock page, babylock.com. So if you're watching it, you've obviously already done that. I want to say a big hello to all of our Baby Lock retailers and all of the customers that are there. We have a lot that we're going to share with you today. I want to also let you know that we have a number of Baby Lock educators that are going to be joining us on this broadcast. You're going to get to see some of your favorite people. We have coming today, we have Deb Canham. We also have Lori Hernandez, who is a longtime Baby Lock educator. We have Barb Lewis and also Deb Bone Harris. And then as a special treat here in our studio, we have Chris Tryon, who's one of the admins for our Baby Lock Serger Facebook group. Anybody who's been surging on a Baby Lock Serger for any length of time should know who Chris is, because she is an expert in her own right. You're going to learn more about her a little bit later. But I think it's time for us to stop all the preamble. Let's invite and have Tim Schaumburg be part of our event. Thank
Hello,
you, Tim,
Linda.
for joining me.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun day.
It's going to be amazing.
What are you most excited about?
I'm excited about the lineup. The lineup that you have put together is unbelievable. And I think it is amazing that right now across the country, there's hundreds and hundreds of Baby Lock fans and customers sitting together, coming together to learn more about surging. And you're going to learn a lot today. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, I think the fun thing about sergers is that no matter how long you've been a sewist, if you don't own a serger, you might be really amazed at how much having one in your sewing room will really make your sewing experience so much more fun. And you're going to find out today all the different ways that you can incorporate serging into your everyday sewing. So what kind of sewing do you do?
I do a little bit. I have a Baby Lock Vesta and a Triumph, which you're going to learn more about the Triumph today.
Yeah, so did you make your shoes?
I did not make my shoes. Someone made these. You get a shot of those. I appreciate Nate. Nate is amazing. He's one of our employees.
He works at
he's amazing. Yeah.
And he's not a part of our team of sewists, but he could be. I mean, he's got the street cred to make shoes.
He's got incredible skills for sure.
That's awesome. So I'm super excited about just sharing with everybody the not only the different techniques, but also just all of the different samples and stuff we have. I mean, this is a chock full broadcast where you're going to learn a lot, and I think you're going to be a little bit amazed, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So we called this a Sip and Surge event because what we're expecting is that hopefully you're having a little snack, a little beverage. We've got some sparkling fruit juice for a little bit later on in the broadcast today, and I know that everybody's going to be having fun having snacks there. So I wanted to make sure that I let everybody know that whether you're watching at home or if you're at a store, we have a shopping list that we've created that you could have in hand while you are watching this broadcast. And so you probably noticed that we've got an active chat on this broadcast as well. So be sure to say hi. I was kind of peeking over the shoulders of someone earlier and saw that we've got people from all over the place that are joining us. So welcome to this broadcast. I know it's going to be fun. It is a rainy day here in St. Louis.
It's been raining for 3 days here in St. Louis. It's been unbelievably rainy, and I can kind of hear it on the roof right now. You may hear a little bit of that today during the broadcast.
Yeah, so hopefully we won't have any interruption in our broadcast whatsoever. But if for some reason your feed gets kind of hung up, just hit that little refresh button on your web browser, and you should be back in business soon. So Tim, one of the things that I like to point out to people, and I think this is very true because I see this within our office, is that we are a family-owned business, and we are so close to the products that we sell.
Oh, totally. Third generation family-owned business, over 76 years in business. Baby Lock Sergers were brought to the market 56 years ago, which is unbelievable. And you can see a little bit of the timeline behind us, just portions of that.
Yeah.
And along the way, over the last 56 years, Linda, over 130 patents. Every major innovation that's come for the home serger was developed through Baby Lock, leading the way along the way. And that innovation is really a big differentiator for Baby Lock. The other is just quality. When you look at Baby Lock sergers, they are still made in Japan, Yamagata, Japan. And the quality, I've been to the factory numerous times, the quality is unbelievable. In fact, those sergers are completely made and assembled right there, including all the metal work, the tool and die, all the machine work is done right on site. And it's almost a handcrafted build. Unbelievable. And then everyone here also knows how easy they are to use, right?
It is the hallmark of our brand, throughout our brand, that we have an easy to use product, and people gravitate to our product, not only because the products themselves are so well made and easy to use, but also because we really excel in education. It's events like this. We're going to talk a little bit about our SOED video content. We've got over 1,300 videos that'll teach you everything you want to know about your Baby Lock machine, whether you've had it for a while or whether it's something that you're going to be taking home maybe today at the end of this broadcast. So we're proud of that tradition of education. We're proud of our factory and our long-standing tradition of bringing innovative products to the market, because unlike any other company, we just don't stop.
Keep innovating, keep pushing the limits, keep making it easier and more fun to sew, keep creating new ways to create new stitches. And we're going to continue to do that.
Yeah. So we are featuring 3 main machines today during this broadcast. We're talking about our Baby Lock Victory Serger, which is an entry-level 4-thread serger. We're going to be talking about our Triumph Serger, which is a combination overlock and a cover stitch machine. And then lastly, the Baby Lock Applaud, which is our most recent addition to the Baby Lock lineup. And in fact, Tim, I think that maybe this is your cue to tee up that video that we have.
So we launched the Applaud last year at Baby Lock Tech, which was in August, and wow, was it well received. Unbelievable. We shared this video with our retailer network, and we'd like to share it with you. You're going to see glimpses inside the factory I was talking about earlier. You're going to see, folks, the actual people that built your machine. In fact, fun fact for you, every looper in a Baby Lock serger has a 6-step process, and they are hand done, like hand polished down to the exact spec and variance that's needed. There are 2 people that do that. 2 people.
I know, it's crazy.
And it's unbelievable. That is the quality and the intensity to perfection, the pursuit of perfection, I should say. And you're going to see that in the video. So check the video out. I hope you enjoy it.
All right, play the video.
Here at the Baby Lock factory in Yamagata, Japan, we have a proud tradition of manufacturing the best sergers in the world. For over 50 years, we have introduced innovative features, making our sergers the easiest machine to use on the market today. And we continue to stretch what is possible in machine design and functionality, making our sergers the most user-friendly.
私たちはサージャーの重要な部品の一部を手作業で行っています。
新製品が完成し、お客様にお届けできることには特別な満足感があります。
ここが日本の山形にあるベビーロックの工場です。世界最高のベビーロックを製造する誇り高き伝統があります。
Today, we introduce the exclusive Baby Lock Upload Creative Cover Stitch Machine.
This machine has been in development for up to 4 years. We wanted a top cover stitch 6-thread machine that was different than existing product on the market. After researching, I was able to present an opportunity to our Baby Lock Japan partner, which inspired the development of the new Applaud. Our close relationship with the engineers and leadership of Baby Lock Japan allow us to bring the unique, innovative, and exclusive wiper system with combination foot to life.
The dual wiper system on the Baby Lock Applaud really elevates all the stitches available on that machine. And the great part is that you can add your own personal touch with that system, whether it's a garment, a quilt, a home decor project, craft, or even creating your own unique trims. That stitch really lends itself to lots of creative opportunities. And the best part is when you take a look at that stitch, it's hard to believe it was done on a serger.
All right, so that was a great glimpse at the factory, and you probably recognize Chris Tryon, but you may not have recognized Charlie Dupree, who's our chief engineer, and I'm just going to give a big shout out to Charlie. He is the reason that Baby Lock products are the way they are today. I have the great pleasure of being able to work with him and other fantastic people at Baby Lock every single day. So here we are on the set with the Baby Lock Victory, and so for those of you who've never seen a serger in action, I'm going to show you why I fell in love with sergers forever ago. And I'm going to start off with a really lightweight piece of fabric. And so this is the type of fabric that you might use if you're doing some sewing on like a lining type fabric. Now, look at this. It's cutting off the edge of my fabric. And there it is, just falls into my little trim bin. And now I'm going to take a piece of denim. Now, this is a pretty beefy denim. This is the type of fabric that you might make a pair of jeans out of. Watch how easily my machine goes through this fabric. It just cuts through it. And not only can I do 2 layers, but I can comfortably go through 4 layers. And the super cool thing about this is, look at this. There is no disruption in the quality of my stitch. My stitches are right there resting on the very edge of my fabric, and I didn't have to change anything on my machine. And it's the reason that we really love our sergers, because we have what's called ATD. And ATD, for those of you who might be familiar with the fact that we have machines that will thread themselves, you might think, well, ATD, that means automatic thread delivery. Perhaps that's what they call that system where it threads itself. So my Victory has this little pump here. And when I push on this pump and I put thread here in these loopers, it just pulls it completely through the machine. That's pretty much rocket science. And we've had this technology since the 1990s, okay? But that's not as impressive as watching how easy it is to be able to work with knits. I will tell you that the main reason why I bought a serger forever ago is because I wanted to make garments for my kids, and I wanted them to be able to have a knit shirt and not have it pop as you're putting it over their head. But that's what happens on a sewing machine, and you just can't help it. But look at this. This is taking a piece of ribbing and putting it onto a neckline. Now, I don't know about you, but this sure looks like the top of a t-shirt to me. And not only that, you can finish off the cuff of a bottom of a sleeve. This is how it's made in manufacturing. And so if you're sitting in a chair or just watching this broadcast, you might say to yourself, I never knew that's how they did it. And that's how easy it is to run it through. The machine makes all the difference in the world. Now, my serger can do more than just do garment construction. And so a lot of people that aren't garment sewers, you might say, well, is a serger something that I would want? Yes. Why wouldn't you want to have a machine that can gather fabric this easily? A simple switch of my differential feed, and I change my stitch length the tiniest amount, and look at this. My machine gathered my fabric for me. I didn't have to do anything special. And watch this. As I just pull those threads down, because I'm using 4 spools of thread, my 2 shortest threads, well, they're my needle threads. So for those of you who've ever had to do 2 rows of stitching to get a piece of fabric to gather, it's the same thing. But the big bonus on a serger is that as I'm pulling those threads down and getting my gathers as full as I want them to be, none of my fabric is going to fray. That is a phenomenal thing that you can do with the serger. Now, in addition to that ability to be able to do gathering, I can also do something as simple as putting elastic in something. I'm going to put my differential feed back in place, change my stitch length back to a lower setting, and watch how easy this is. You might recognize this look if you've ever bought a swimsuit or any type of athleisure wear that has elastic in it. You simply serge the elastic in at the same time and top stitch it with the cover hem, and it is beautiful. Now, I can easily transition to different stitches, and it's as simple as, in this case, removing my left needle, which is my overlock needle 1, and I'm just going to clip my thread here. And because I know that you never want to serge with having that thread hang down. I'm just going to pull that out of the way. And now my machine becomes a 3-thread machine with a couple little adjustments, like in my stitch width. I'm just going to run now some of this lycra fabric through. And this works not only for lycra, but think of any of your lightweight fabrics where you don't want to have a big bulky seam. Look at how easily that went through, and also how easily it stretches so that it conforms to my body. Now I'm going to show you my favorite stitch on a serger, and that's achieved by just changing my stitch selector knob here to the letter C. And then I'm going to show you that I can just go instantly to doing, again, my favorite stitch, which is a narrow rolled hem. If you've ever seen this stitch, so beautiful on the edge of this little ruffle, which is, if you're a garment sewer, you can see this becomes like a little butterfly sleeve, or I like to say this is ruffles on the edges of your pillow. This could be easily a bed skirt that you make if you like to do home decor sewing. So I love a serger for that finish. And notice how beautiful that band is. By the way, your sewing machine could never do this stitch. And so that's a good reason that you might want to buy a serger. Now, the last technique that I'm going to show you, I'm going to go back to my original piece of fabric that I had here, because this little lightweight fabric, well, this is oftentimes what somebody wants to make like a little garment, and they want to have a nice hem. Watch how easy it is. I'm going to change my stitch selector knob to the letter D, and I'm going to run my fabric through on one side. And I'm going to open up my stitch length just a tiny bit. Look at how beautiful and delicate this is. I've hemmed so many beautiful dresses with that tiny hem. It just floats above the floor. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make my stitch length a little bit longer with that same stitch. And when you pull that out and look at it, look at how beautiful this stitch is. Why, that's just like what you would find if you went to the store and bought a beautiful silk scarf. Only now you don't have to go to the store to buy it. You can buy it. You can make one for yourself. So if I've got you interested in a serger, don't be surprised. This is how easy it is to have something in your own sewing room where you can make beautiful garments, beautiful crafts. You can even quilt with it. This is the tip of the iceberg. And throughout the rest of our presentation today, you're going to see some of the best baby lock educators out there wowing you with some of their favorite techniques. Now, I want to point out a few things, because it's really all about the right supplies to go along with your machine. And so you may have noticed that I'm using 4 or 3 different cones of thread. These are a mini king size spool of thread. And so I want to show you that we've thought of everything. And so Baby Lock has, and I'm going to reach over here and grab this. We've got this beautiful box of Aerolock thread, and your Baby Lock retailer carries this, and inside you'll see that it's got an assortment of 6 different colors of thread, 4 spools a piece. This is a wonderful way to get started serging on your machine. Now, if you want to have an array of other thread colors, then here we have this Madeira thread, beautiful thread, the same quality that Madeira has in their sewing thread. You have it here in the overlock thread as well. 1,200 meters at the same time on the thread spool. I also want to point out that we've got wonderful tools like the Serger toolkit that will help you rip out seams if you ever have to do that, along with a double-eyed needle. And your Baby Lock retailer can tell you how easy this is to finish off your thread tails. Next, I want to talk a little bit about some of these other beautiful fluffy threads. These are the threads that you would customarily find inside of swimwear because it blossoms out. This is called Aeroflock thread by Madeira. I also want to tell you that we have some other threads here, and you're going to see some decorative techniques, and you might wonder, well, this Wonderfill thread is perfect for those techniques. You also want to know that we have collections of needles that really work well on sergers, and you can buy these. They're very cost effective to buy. And the last couple things I want to talk about, you couldn't help but notice, I'm sure, that as I was serging, all of this mess is going into my beautiful koala serger studio with my built-in thread catcher. But now look here, Baby Lock has a separate Baby Lock trim bin. This can just go underneath a serger when it's sitting on a table. And I mentioned at the very beginning that every single Baby Lock new machine purchase comes with a free 60-day trial to our So Ed video vault. And I know that for anybody who ends up with a brand new serger at the end of today, you're going to love the fact that you can take that machine home today. You can start learning about how to use it tonight. No pause for you at all. Check out any of the machines that we have at our retailers. Now, next up, I'm going to invite our very first educator to this broadcast. Deb Bone Harris is going to be joining me from Kennewa, Washington. I hope I said that correctly. Deb, welcome to the broadcast.
Hi, Linda. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to have you show everybody what you have planned. What are you going to be showing us?
Today, we're going to take a peek at the wave stitch.
All right. Well, I'm going to
I'm
wave
thrilled.
goodbye. I'm going to wave goodbye and I'm
Bye-bye,
going to let it
Linda.
go to you. See you in a little
Thank you
bit.
so much. All righty. Sounds great. So first of all, I'm thrilled that you are here today with us because you've heard, wow, Linda, just she went through that surgery in no time flat. So we got all those basics of a serger, right? So she flew through them. But what I get to show you today is the wave stitch. And now we're going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to skip straight over to the renowned wave stitch of Baby Lock. And we patented that. You heard Tim talk about all the patents. Oh my gosh, Baby Lock is out front as far as the serger community goes. I'm going to switch my camera right now so we can look at what's really important. And that is our Triumph serger right there. Let me just get you an angle there. There you go. And so we're going to go straight to the wave stitch. And I'm sure some of you are wondering, what is the wave stitch? Well, here it is. I've got a full sheet of the wave stitch here. And we are going to play today. And you're going to walk away and say, wow, why haven't I ever tried this before? You want to see how? Here we go. Alrighty, so let's go. And I'm going to take 2 pieces of fabric that are wrong sides together, and I'm just going to put them underneath my presser foot. Now you see I've got my machine all threaded up for the wave stitch. I'm going to show you how easy it is to thread in just a little bit here. But let's just dig in and see what this little baby will do. Wow, there we have it. So I'm going to put some glasses on so I can see this. Look at that phenomenal wave stitch. Isn't that incredible? So there's my back, there's that lower looper, and there's my front. So you might ask, what all can I do with this wave stitch? So not only is it decorative, it's very utilitarian also. So how about for all you quilters out there? Let's take a peek. Okay, so I said I stitched my wrong sides together. So here's a little sample. I've just taken 2.5-inch strips of fabric and I've sewn them together. So what if you turn that into an entire quilt? So take a peek at this, all right? So look at the colors. A couple tips when you're sewing with the wave stitch is you want to have high contrasting threads, alrighty? So that's kind of important when you're doing the wave stitch. As we look at this sample again, can you see how easy it is to see the wave when you've got 2 high contrasting threads? So the other tip is that you want to work with threads that are of the same weight. That way they're balanced because when we're making the wave stitch, about every 20 inches, that machine flips the tension from the upper looper to the lower looper to form this really incredible wave here. So that's how we're getting that gradual waving of a stitch. So when you have different thread weights, it's just not as balanced and not as gorgeous. So we've looked at quilting, we've looked at the regular serging. How about here's one right on the edge here. Can you see that? I've got this little sample and I've finished my edge here with the wave stitch. But how about those of you who love home deck? Let's look at serging cording, okay? So I'm going to now I'm going to take my fabric and I'm just going to take a 2-inch piece of fabric and I'm going to fold it in half. And now I'm going to sew along the edge of that fold, okay? So I've got my blade up, but I'm not cutting, all right? And so here we go, and I'm going to show you a little trick here in just a minute. I know the juices are flowing now, okay? So there we have cording without any cord, ladies and gents. We're just going to use that as piping and insert that into our project. What do you think of that? Not bad, huh? So we're on a 3-thread wave stitch. So as Linda and Tim talked about with the education, we have the best education and the best educators in the industry. But as Linda talked about, you can go out any time of day or night and you can look at these quick reference guides. You can look at our sew ed classes so you'll never get lost. So what you witnessed right there was the 3-thread wave stitch, okay? There's all of our settings, but you also have to pay attention to this part right in here. So what we did, if you see 2 little red arrows right here, we actually moved our O2 needle and our upper looper thread over to the left one. But now I'm going to show you the 3-thread flat lock wave. And we're actually going to thread up this machine, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to clip my threads right there. And I'm going to put this up and I'm going to take these threads out. So I'm going to open up my machine here. I'm going to put it into threading mode right here. And I'm going to pull those other threads out. Let's put my needle all the way up. There's that one. We're going to go up. Whoops. There we go. Let's just put that out. There we go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to thread for the 3-thread flat lock wave stitch. So our lower looper is always going to go in this same hole right here. But right now I have to flip my O2 thread to my upper looper thread and vice versa. So let me just take just a second to do that. Okay. And this wave stitch was actually thought up and dreamed of by a baby lock educator. And her name was Margaret Tully. And I think it was like 25 years ago, perhaps. And she was just playing with tensions. And that's what the wave stitch is. Okay. You're playing with tensions. So she brought that to our Baby Lock Tech, which is the annual convention. And she gave it to those Japanese engineers, and they took it back and they incorporated it into the machine. So that was a 3-thread. And then the 3-thread flat lock, which we're going to look at right here, was invented by an Australian baby lock educator. So here we go. Let's thread up. So our lower looper always goes into this right port over here. That's just standard. But again, we're going to take the machine, we're going to turn it to threading. I'm going to take that flywheel, and I've already locked those tubes, which are my tubes right here. So now I'm going to take my O2 needle, and I'm going to still put it in the O2 slot, bring it down here through these thread guides. I'm going to clip a clean end on that. And then I'm going to just insert it into the upper looper port. So my O2 needle is going into the upper looper port. There's the trick with the wave stitch. There, did you see that incredible revolutionary thread? Just popped right out. So these are all my air tubes right in here. And again, Baby Lock is known for their patented ideas. I'd love to know the brain of a Baby Lock engineer and how they think, because oh my gosh, it's so different than mine. So now I've taken my upper looper thread. It's still in the upper looper port here, or threading guide. And then I'm going to take that over and I'm going to actually put that into my needle thread. So remember I said the wave stitch is all about the tensions. So we're just getting different tensions on this. So I'm going to lower my presser foot. And again, I'm in threading mode. My ports are closed. I'm going to take my thread downward and I'm going to just hold this thread in front of the eye of that needle. And I'm going to press this button that says push to thread needles. There we go. Pull that up. Voila. My needle is threaded. Isn't that incredible? For all of you that, we don't have to hold our head sideways. We don't have to thread in any particular order on these baby locks. That's what kind of quality that these engineers have designed for us. So I'm going to close that up. I'm going to turn my machine back to serging. I've got my wave button here. Normally we're in the overlock position, but because we're doing this awesome wave, we put it up to wave. And then for the flat lock stitch, I'm going to take my selector here and I'm going to turn it down to D. Okay. And you'll see why in just a second here. So let's take, again, 2 pieces of fabric, wrong sides together. And now we're going to try the flat lock wave. Cross your fingers. Here we go. There we go. And you know what? You don't have to cross your fingers when you're working on a baby lock. That's how awesome they are. There's a 3-thread flat lock wave. So we've got this little ladder stitch on the back that you see right here. Now watch when I open up the fabric from the back. There's our seam, but we're going to just jimmy those fabrics apart and you see that flat lock coming out. So what we're doing is we are taking that wave stitch and we are laying it down flat. So we've seen 2 different types of wave stitch today. The flat lock, which lays quite flat on our fabrics, and then the other 3-thread wave stitch, which was the pink and the green here. Do you see how 3D that effect is versus the flat lock? So you can have both. Think of a little kid's bib. Okay, you know how little kids love tactile things? Wouldn't that be awesome there? Followed by this. But so you say, what do we use all these wave stitches on? So let's take a look, shall we? So here's a sample of a little design. Karen Parker designed this. This is out on the Baby Lock website as well. And I was just playing. So y'all, you really have to play when you get these sergers. They're such awesome machines, but you've got to start somewhere and play, play, play. So we talked about the piping, okay? So I wanted to do some piping. And so I went ahead and stitched this. And this is what I came up with. I'm going to just insert this cardboard right here and see if you can see this better like this. So do you see this wave stitch here? So I did piping and I inserted it all around my pincushion. Isn't that to die for? There's the wave stitch just inserted. It's amazing what you can come up with on these. And these threads and these seams are very strong. So as we saw in that first application with the quilting, you can quilt a whole top with those seams because you've got so much thread built up in there. So remember I talked about the blade up and cutting. So if you're not comfortable with that, what you could always do is you could use the lace applicator foot, which is this right here. And do you see this little guardrail or this fence right here? You could just run your fabrics through here, and that's going to protect all your edges from your blade with this lace applicator foot. So if you don't have this, put it on your list as part of your arsenal. You will use it for lace applique. You'll use it for so many things. A real good guard to your blade. So how about garment sewers? I know we can't leave you guys out. I'm a garment sewer and I love garment sewing. So how about a sleeve, okay? So we've used the cover stitch here on my hem. I used the cover stitch here, but I came back and I actually applied that wave stitch to the edge to really give kind of a fluttered look to that wave. So it's giving a wave to the wave. What do you think of that? I love that application. Quilters, I cannot leave you out. So let's look at the quilter side of things. So here we go. I'm just going to flip right over there. So can you see how I've used heavier threads now with my wave stitch? So we've got all sorts of threads. So we've got Wonderful, Razzle, Dazzle. That's what I used with this, was the Dazzle. So the Dazzle has more metallic in it, but the lower the thread weight, the thicker the thread. Okay, what I was using earlier was the Wonderful Spaghetti, and that is a 12 weight. Okay, so that when I talk about balanced weights in your wave stitch, that's what we're getting because I'm using the same weight threads. Pretty awesome, huh? Here's one other little sample of that same quilt. Okay, so we go from wowie wow wow to zow, right? So I have to show you my wall hanging that I did. So I'm going to just turn this a little bit so you can see this a little better. And look how those strips actually went into the application of the wall hanging here. Can you see how those wave stitches are really accenting and popping that color? So quilters, get ready because this machine is for you too. I can't live without the Baby Lock Triumph anymore. It's just amazing. So how about some edging on your quilts? What do you think of that, huh? So there's my grandson. My daughter-in-law would kill me with all the pink in it. But what I've done is I've taken and I have used that wave stitch to edge finish my wall hangings. Isn't that awesome? There's the back, so you get a super clean look on the back as well as the front. Pretty awesome, huh? And then I have one other sample to show you of that one. And that is this sample right here. So I've been playing with the new Radiance and the picture play. And then I come over to my Baby Lock serger and I apply that wave stitch to the edges of it. Can you see that there? It's just what a way to finish things off. Clean, simple, no binding included, right? So, and my back side is just as clean as my front side. So I love this wave stitch, whether it's the flat lock, whether it's just the 3-thread wave. You've got so many different applications that you can use with it. So, and finally, I've got this little mini wall hang right here. And there is the flat lock wave stitch right along the edge. There's the back. I just haven't pulled it out. And so what I'd like to tell all of you is go sew something. Or today, it should be go serge something, right? So Linda, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back to you. What a fun day. I hope everybody just loves this serger. If you've never tried it before, just dig in. Don't be afraid of this machine. It is a dream machine. And I'll leave it to you to go check out your local retailers and talk to them about it. So long for now. Just waving goodbye.
Bye. Thank you so much, Deb. That was outstanding. You know, she is so inspirational. She's the complete opposite in terms of like manic energy level. Loved every moment of your presentation. And I tell you what, when it comes to wave stitching and flat locking, there is a lot more inspiration. We could not let this topic go by without delving into that a little bit more. So let's play a little video that we have. I think you're going to like it. Add a beautiful focal point to your projects with the wave stitch. Whether you feature this amazing stitch on the edges of or within your project, The wave stitch adds texture and dimension along with a splash of fun no matter what type of sewing you do. Quilting, bag making, crafting, or home decor. The wave stitch is the perfect stitch to make your creations uniquely yours. It's also a great way to use your favorite decorative threads and can be functional as well, like in this project that uses the wave stitch to put in a zipper. Another hidden gem in Baby Lock sergers is the flat lock stitch. This unique stitch is achieved by stitching fabric wrong sides together and pulling apart to reveal the magic. A subtle texture can be achieved when stitching rows of flat lock stitches in a table runner or garment. How about using the optional beading foot to add strands of beads to an edge of your fabric? A fun technique is adding lace and ribbon all at the same time using the optional lace applicator foot. There's so much more to see in a Baby Lock serger than you ever imagined. Check out the full lineup at your local retailer or on babylock.com. So if you're looking for a machine that has the wave stitch, and I can completely understand that desire, check out the lineup on babylock.com, or if you're at a retailer store, talk to them. We have the Acclaim, we have the Triumph, we also have the 55th anniversary edition serger, if anybody has that. So check out a machine with the wave stitch. And honestly, that flat lock, that is a sleeper stitch. It's on every single one of our 4-thread overlock stitches, our stitch machines, and I know you're going to love it. All right, so that was really fun visiting with Deb Bone Harris. And now we're going to introduce to the broadcast Barb Lewis, a longtime Baby Lock educator. Barb, welcome to Sip and Search. Unmute yourself, Barb, because we can't hear you.
Somehow it got muted back up again. I'm unmuted.
What would a live stream broadcast be without a little excitement? Like we couldn't hear you. Glad for you to be on the broadcast. What are you going to show us today?
I'm going to show you some fun things, but I have been watching. I have learned so much. I just love the sergers. Love, love, love them. But I want to jump into some other things.
I love that you said that you're learning something, because every single time I talk to somebody who's a sewist, I learn something new. All right, I'm going to turn it all over to you.
Okay.
Go wow us.
Sounds great. Well, you've talked about so many things, but I think the thing that is different about the serger is that you look at that, you walk in, you look at it, think, that is a scary machine. But there's no reason to ever be afraid of a serger. And let me tell you why. First of all, you've got this great thread guide, and Deb talked about this. This is something, I noticed that some people in the chat said that they laminate it and put it on the wall. What a great idea. What a great idea, because if you have this, you can do any stitch you want. Also, Baby Lock, Linda, you mentioned this, has great education. You can go on and learn so much right from the comfort of your own home on your computer. And you can come home with your new serger today and be sewing on it tonight. And then you have your backup that your dealer can give you all that information that you want. You can go in, you have classes, inspiration right at your dealer. I'll tell you, with all that education, what else is there to do? I love this machine. All right, I want to start out with a 3-thread overlock on my serger. This is my Triumph. Now, first thing you're going to notice that there are no tension dials, which is amazing. And the threading, of course, is, those are the two things that people are really afraid of, is the tension and the threading. You don't have to worry about it on the Baby Lock sergers. And this is the Triumph, and I love it. I'm going to be sewing with a 3-thread overlock. Let me just show you what that looks like. I have decorative threads in my loopers. First of all, there is a beautiful stitch. That's kind of a narrow stitch. Let's go to a wide stitch because I can. I have that width, that length control that I can do it. And let me go to a very narrow one so we can compare what those are going to look like. That one's a very wide one. Let me go to a little, about midway in between. Let's see what we can get. Well, I could just serge around and around and around this little swatch of fabric, and you will see how many different ways I can use a 3-thread overlock. So 3-thread is really versatile. You can use it in so many different ways. It has 1 needle and 2 loopers. You can use it for construction. If you're making a quilt, do you know how fast you can serge a quilt together with the serger? I mean, you saw how fast it's going to go in the first place. You can put those strips in, you can piece quilt, you can just do everything you wanted to on your quilt. You can also use it for decorative stitches. Yes, because you can use decorative thread in your loopers. Now we have a width dial and we have a length dial. Let's see what the different things are going to be there. First of all, we played with the width a little bit. Let's play with that length and see what we can get. This one's really wide or long, excuse me. So there is a long width. Let me go to a little bit of a medium length. I keep switching out length and width. And I'm going to go to a short one. So let's look what those are going to do. So there I've got a really long length, I have a medium length, and I have a very narrow length. So you can see the different versatility you can get with the Triumph and all of those different dials you can do. You can also put your blade down if you don't want to use it. That is how easy and fun that is to do. So right now I'm going to show you my 3 favorite things to do on the Triumph with the 3-thread overlock. So first of all, I'm going to increase my length or my width up, and I'm going to put it on about a 2.5 inch or a 2.5 inch, excuse me, I keep going inch. My width is going to be my wide width and my length is going to be about a 2.5. So I'm going to just stitch. There I go. So I want you to see this before I move on. There is a beautiful 3-thread overlock. So come back over here. I am going to change 2 dials, just 2, and I'm going to be going into, you guessed it, I'm going into a rolled hem. All right, look at that. So I've gone from a 3-thread overlock to a rolled hem, and I only changed 2 different settings. That is it. All right, now I'm going to go to my next favorite thing to do. And once again, I'm only going to change 2 settings. And look what I have. Look at this. I have a 3-thread overlock, I have a rolled hem, and I have a gather with only 2 adjustments on that stitch. So is that amazing? I like to be able to do that. This machine can do all of that. In fact, if you have anything with a 4-thread overlock, you can do all of those things I just showed you. Only 2 changes in the settings. Let's talk about that rolled hem just a little bit more. Because when people come in to buy a serger, they're oftentimes looking for the overlock stitch and the rolled hem. Now, when you have the rolled hem, you will have a chance to change the length on it. I'm going to put it right in the rolled hem setting. When I put it in the rolled hem setting, it actually pulls back one of the stitch fingers. You have 3 stitch fingers in there, and if you want to get in and look at those closely, just open the doors. It's so easy to do, and you will be able to see when I move it into my rolled hem, that stitch finger is moving out of the way. I don't actually physically take it off the machine because I would lose it, but it just pulls it back, and when it pulls that stitch finger back, it rolls the fabric underneath. So let's do a rolled. We're going to go into a rolled hem first. I want to see if you can tell me the difference. Because this is a rolled hem. This is in the C, and I'm going to go into the D portion, And that one is going to give me a little different rolled hem, and I'll show you the difference in just a minute. All right, so why do you think that I have a rolled hem? I've got some thread caught in my stitch right there. This one is a rolled hem. This is a rolled edge. This one is done in C, the C setting. This one is done in the D setting. So here is the big difference. If you look on the back, this one is a balanced stitch. That means those threads meet, the upper looper and the lower looper, they meet at the edge of the fabric. It's a balanced stitch. This one is not balanced. That means that the upper looper is rolling all the way around to the back. Now, why would you want to do that? Maybe you have a set of napkins that you are doing, and one side is a different color than the other, and you want to be able to match your thread to your fabrics. So here is a rolled hem. I have blue on the top because I want blue here. I have orange on the back. So you can see that I have orange thread on the back. So the orange thread is in my lower looper, and my top thread, my upper looper, has the blue in it. So that made it in the C settings a balanced stitch. Let me flip it around to here. This one is a rolled edge. That is in the D setting, and you will see that that upper looper rolls all the way back to the back. So I have blue all the way, up and lower, because it pretty much just takes that a lower looper into just a straight needle stitch, so you're not going to see it. So right here, this is a rolled edge. There I have the blue, the upper looper on the back. If I want two colors, I'm going to be in a rolled hem. So basically they look the same except for the thread color. So there you are. And I love to use the roll. I just love to use that rolled hem. I use it in so many different things. All right, so let's look at what you can do with a gather. First of all, I'm going to take this piece of fabric here, and I'm going to do a rolled edge right along the edge of it. Oh, that's a beautiful rolled hem. I love that. Now, what would I use this for? Let me show you what I'm going to do right here, right now. Just a few switches of the switches, and I am making something fun. So what do I have here? I have a beautiful rolled edge on the bottom of a skirt or the bottom of a dust cover. I mean, think of all the different ways that you can use a gather stitch with your rolled hem on the bottom. You've got skirts, you got pillows, you got dust covers, table runners. You can even do a quilt block with a ruffle in it. And you can make bags. I love to make bags, and so I use this a lot. And if you want to adjust the gather more, all you have to do is just slide those threads out, isolate your needle threads, and you can still pull them to make that a stronger gather if you want. And it's all ready for you. It's such a good, great stitch. It's very solid, so you can do so many things with it. All right, so let's go back over here to the machine, and I've got a bit of a mess going on here. Let's talk about what you can do. I'm going to put it back down out of my settings. So that's one thing you have to remember to do, is move it back to where you want to be. But there I have it already back into a 3-thread overlock. Just that easy. And I think the versatility of knowing that it's so easy to go back and forth between different stitches, that's what I love about this serger. I want to show you some different places that I have used the rolled hem and the 3-thread overlock. First of all, I like to do pin tucks, and you'll see some samples here in a minute. So here's a pin tuck. This one is done with a rolled hem, and this one kind of stands up a little bit, so you've got more of a texture to it. This one is going to lay flat. So this one is done with a 3-thread overlock, and there you go. Nice and flat. And I even left the darker thread in the bottom so you could see the contrast there, because there's my lower looper and there's my upper looper. And right over here, you can see that one I used a rolled edge on, meaning that I had my upper looper that wrapped all the way around to the back. And there's my pin tuck. Now I can do the same thing right here. Here is just joining fabrics. So if I want to make a whole bunch of different things with different strips of fabric, and maybe that's all I have left for my quilt is strips, I can join them together and make more projects. This one was done with a rolled edge, and there you can see I do have that texture up there, and sometimes I really like that texture. But what if I don't? What if I want those seams to lay flat? Here I have joined them with a 3-thread overlock, and there you go. I love that. And this one I have matched my lower looper to the pink and my upper looper to the black. Now, when we started sewing and we have bobbins, right? Well, the serger world introduced us to a whole new ball game. Now we have loopers that we have to learn about, but that's really what they are. They just loop around the top, they loop around the bottom. It's just that easy. And then your needle stitch just goes down and makes a needle. That's all it does. And here you've got different ways you can use it. Let me go to another one. I know that Deb talked and Linda talked about the flat lock stitches. I really love the flat lock stitches. Here is a sample of where I would just put flat lock as a decoration with decorative thread in my looper on a piece of fabric, just to make that more interesting. So right here is the back side, and this is where I opened it up. So remember how she talked about you sew it like this and then you open it up? Well, you'll get a totally different look if you fold it to wrong sides together, to right sides together. You'll get a totally different look. And I have different threads in there, so I've got different colors of thread showing, which really gives it a great look. And here I have simply joined 2 fabrics together to make more different things. I love to be able to join fabrics because who doesn't have a lot of scraps, right? And if you can use up your scraps, then I love being able to do that. I don't like to waste it. Now, when you first get your serger, when you go home with it today, and I tell you, you can get it right out of the box and you can start sewing, the first thing you really need to do is try out all of those different stitches and label it. This is my little stitch sampler right here. I have my 4-thread overlock, my 3-thread overlock, and there is a rolled hem and a rolled edge, so I can see the difference between those two. So when I go to make a project, if I know what they're going to look like, then it's much easier to work with. There's my wave stitch, there's my flat lock wave, and I can go on and on and on. Just go in and try out every stitch and make a little sampler for yourself. All right, let me show you some ways that I have used some of these stitches. I told you I love to use the gathering, and here I put a ruching strip in a bag. And yes, you can do this on your serger. In fact, we're going to be talking more about this later, but you can do this in one step. It is amazing. And then right here, I told you I love to make bags. There I've got my, I have my gathering strip right in here, which I love to do ruching. I have piping. I have even put binding on my strap right here. I have the flat lock wave, and I've got it here on the back also. And I wish I could sit and show you how to do this part. I put the zipper in one step with my cover stitch. I love this one. This is my favorite way to put a zipper in. It is so easy, it is so fast. And here's one of my favorite things to do. Talk about serger crochet. This is done with a 4-thread overlock on my Triumph with decorative thread in my loopers. And of course you can see that all my threads match, so they're the same color. And I've got about 4 rows on here, and the more rows you put in, the gathery it looks. And imagine putting this on the bottom of a, well, here I have it on a tea towel. What about on a blanket going all the way around? What about putting it on a bib. You go just sew that circle around that bib, or even a tabletop or doily type thing. This is so, so beautiful. All right, and here I have used my flat lock wave again. I have done piping, I have done pin tucking, and I have gone around the outside with the wave stitch. All those beautiful stitches that you can do on your Triumph. Here's another sample. Now remember I told you that that 3-thread overlock isn't just for construction. You can use it right here for decoration. This is a prairie point that I have made. And normally when you do a prairie point, you're going to see this side of it, right? The back side, because you're going to sew the other side. Well, I wanted to be able to see how beautiful those stitches are. Once again, I've got my ruching in here. I love the ruching. And this is a cover stitch right here. This is the back side of the cover stitch. This is the top side of the cover stitch. Great ways to use those things. I've got another sample here of where I've used the chain stitch. And this chain stitch right here is the back side, and then there's the top side. And both of them will have a different dimension on them. So using them like that, where you've got one on the top, one on the bottom, it is beautiful. All right. Now, well, once again, I have my flat lock wave in there. I love to use the flat lock wave. And here is another sample I have. And here is the back side of the cover stitch. I have used it on this crazy patch just to cover my seams and give it that extra dimension. I love how that turned out. Once again, I like to use the wave stitch right in here. There are so many things that I can do with that wave stitch. And you know, you look at a table runner, all it is a mini quilt. So anytime you make anything like this, you can make it bigger. You can make it full size, king size if you wanted to. However you want to do it. I've got a flat lock stitch in here. I have the rolled hem right here. I connected my fabrics together with it. I have made a whole new piece. And I love how that all works together. So if you are looking for a serger, the Baby Lock is really the only way to go. They are so easy to use, fun to use. You will be sewing on it tonight when you get home. Because you know what? Here at Baby Lock, we want you to love your machine. We want you to love that serger that you buy. And when you take it home, don't put it under the table. I leave mine right on top next to my sewing machine, and I use it all the time. If I put it away, then I may not want to get it out. It may be something, a bother. Well, it's not a bother. You keep that out on your table and you keep it threaded, use it all the time, and you will love it. Don't be afraid of it. It may look scary at first. Just sit down and try it and you will just love it. And I want you to surge up a storm, because that's what we're doing today. Sip and surge. What do you think, Linda?
I think you are exactly right. And I especially love that you wove in the word love, because we are all about the love of sewing
We
cloth.
are.
You are right on. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise. I
You're
think
welcome.
everybody's mind's blown.
All right.
All right. We'll see ya. All right, that was great fun. I love learning from different Baby Lock educators. Everybody's got their own style of stuff that they do, but the thing they have in common is they're all serging on a Baby Lock, and every one of them are smiling. Nobody cries with a Baby Lock serger. All right, so here we have our first opportunity to invite one of our fabulous Baby Lock retailers into our event. I want to welcome Michelle from Sewabilities in Las Vegas, Nevada. I know she's got her crew with her today. Hey, Michelle, welcome to Sip and Surge. You have to unmute yourself.
There we go. Hi, Linda.
Take it away.
Hi, Linda. Welcome, everybody. I'm Michelle Choxey. I'm the owner of Sewabilities here in Las Vegas. And I am more than happy to just share with the world that we are a small family business, just like Baby Lock. And I am so proud to represent what I think is the best line of sergers in the world. And I am surrounded by people that are sharing the love with us today with their Sewabilities t-shirts. But we want you to know our love for Baby Lock, right? Right. Yay! Thanks so much. Back to you, Linda.
All right, Michelle, you guys are having a big old party over there. I feel like I want to go back to Las Vegas.
Thanks so much.
That's fantastic. Thank you for joining us. All right, we have our very first drawing. So I want to introducing Julie Getz, who's our brand manager for Baby Lock.
Yeah. Hi, welcome everyone. So great to see you all. And it's our exciting time to give away our first prize today.
Yeah, so let's talk about what we have, because we've got a lucky winner. And this is the reason why we had you guys register online, is because the only way you could get in the drawing was for this. So tell us what do you have?
Sure. So we have a great Serger accessories prize pack. So first here we have this gold thimble. That's a great organizer for all your tools, notions, scissors, everything like that. And it's really cute sewing theme. It'll look great in your sewing room. We also have this limited edition pair of Fisker scissors with this cute design on the handles. And then we also have a package of our Class A needles, Serger needles. And this is one of our exclusive brands. So super great needles, will work great on your serger. And then last but not least, we have this really nice Madeira Aerolock thread set. It comes with 12 spools and some beautiful colors for your serger.
Okay, so
without further ado, let me go grab it.
All right, we're going to grab the name. Drum roll, please. We're so excited.
All right.
All right. Who's our lucky winner?
Our lucky winner is Kathy Monks.
Kathy Monks. Congratulations, Kathy. How is she going to get her prize?
We will reach out to you in the next week or two with details on how we can send you your prize. So thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much. So that was exciting. There was a loud we almost thought that it was like a thunderbolt in here. But anyway, what's a prize without confetti? All right. So we have another Baby Lock expert that we're going to have join our broadcast. And now I want to welcome to Sip and Surge our good friend, Lori Hernandez, who many of you might recognize as the host of the Surge Fun Club. How are you, Lori?
I am doing great. Oh my goodness, how much fun are we having? That group earlier from Sew Abilities. Oh my goodness, so much fun.
Yeah, we're having a lot of fun. All right, so Lori, I know you've got a lot to share with everybody on the broadcast, so I'm just going to turn it over to you. Have fun, everyone.
All right, sounds great. Well, hi everyone. If you don't know me, or if you haven't heard about Surge Fun Club, that's where we really enjoy creating some phenomenal things quick and easy on our sergers. And today I'm going to share with you some of my gathering options as we gather together. I have the Baby Lock Victory here in my sewing area, and I'll also show you a little bit of something on the Triumph a little further in our time together here. You know, I love to be able to gather. It's an accent that really brings your projects to the next level. And being able to do gathering quick and easy, well, that's a win-win in my book. Now, Baby Lock has a variety of feet and accessories that really makes our serging experiences even much easier, as well as very professional. Here I have the 6-foot kit. This is a great item for you to pick up when you purchase a serger. You're going to have those most used, must have, really enjoy feet that you can buy in a 6-foot kit if you don't pick up the large foot kit for whatever serger you may want to bring home to your sewing space. Now within this kit, we will be using the ruffling foot. Let's talk about the ruffling foot. You saw that Linda shared with y'all earlier today within our broadcast that she was able to gather very simply and quickly and easily with her standard presser foot. Again, gathering is a must-have experience in my projects. Now, why don't we elevate our opportunity, make it a lot easier to be able to use our ruffling foot? If you'll notice on this little foot, there's a guide down here at the bottom. And it opens up, which allows us to place a piece of fabric below the foot, as well as slipping a piece of fabric in the little slot on top. We're going to now be able to serge a layer of fabric, as well as serging it onto a flat piece of fabric. Yep, that's what I said. 2-in-1 experience. I've cut a few little pieces of fabric that we're going to serge together and gather. I have a longer piece of fabric that I'll start with. Now this piece of fabric, I've also applied a beautiful little rolled edge along the bottom edge, and I've also used some coordinating Madeira Aeroflock thread. Having decorative threads in your sewing space, combining it with the different techniques and applications that you can do with your Baby Lock serger, again, is a win-win. Love my decorative threads. So once again, I've already edged one edge. That makes it so much easier to edge that fabric before you gather it, working smarter and not harder. Let's take our long piece of fabric. I'll raise my presser foot. And on this little presser foot, that little guide, it really does touch the feed dog. So that gives it more pressure throughout that gathering experience. So what I like to do, I like my machine that gives me that opportunity to have 3 hands, right? So if I place this fabric up underneath the presser foot, I like to take it and position it right in front of the needles. Now, of course, we have differential feed on this serger, as well as the ability to set our stitch to a longer length in that standard position. I've already placed my differential feed all the way up to that maximum gathering setting on some of our sergers, and place that stitch length to a stitch length of 4. And with that little recipe, we're going to be off to making some beautiful gathers. I slip the fabric up to the needles, lower the presser foot, and then I like to take a few stitches. That's going to hold my fabric in place. And now I can raise the presser foot. Once again, that fabric is below the presser foot. We're going to get another piece of fabric. Notice that this one is shorter. It's about half the length of this one. We're going to take this flat fabric, place it in the slot on the top, just slip it up in there. And I like to slide it up to the needles as well. And once it is at the needles, we'll take a couple of little stitches. Now my presser foot and my needles, my serger, they're all working together very simply and easily. When I start serging, I want to just keep these 2 little pieces of fabric apart from each other. I don't want to place my hand and keep them together, since this presser foot separates the 2. So I typically just take my hand and let it rest on top here and align the right edges of the fabric and start serging. We'll use our little thread cutter. Get ready. You're going to be amazed. So here's the back side of our flat fabric. Here's the back side of our ruffle. Let's open it up. Wow. Can you imagine? You can apply a little ruffle to a little girl's dress, to a pillow, very quickly and easily. That is just so gorgeous. Now, I've already pressed a little piece right here. Look how it looks whenever you press it. Now, one little extra step that I like to take, my machines all play well together, and I typically go back to my sewing machine and add maybe a little top stitch along the top edge, and that really makes a beautiful professional finish, quickly serging and gathering those 2 layers together. Now, if you've never tried this and you don't have the ruffling foot, make sure you go over to your local Baby Lock retailer and tell them Lori sent you. You need that ruffling foot. I use it in my projects all the time. Now, I'm going to set my Victory aside for just a minute, and I'll bring my Baby Lock Triumph over. Hey, good luck. I hope you are the winner of the grand prize today. You will absolutely enjoy your serging experience on the Baby Lock Victory. Can you imagine? I know you're probably very, very excited as well as me for you. Here's my Baby Lock Triumph. I'm all ready to go. Now, let's talk about another presser foot that is one of my favorites. We're having fun gathering. There is a presser foot that's called the shearing foot. The shearing foot has a little flap on the back, and it has a little divot underneath. This came out a few years ago, and it really does elevate the look of your gathers. It gives it a very pleated, pretty finish. I've already set my serger up for a 4-thread overlock. Let's change our presser foot and slip that shearing foot onto our serger. We'll grab another piece of fabric that, once again, I've already edged it. You know, gathering is so simple. It's really so easy, but it's also foundational in many, many items that you see out and about, whether it's in a custom clothing store or a home dec store. You cannot go very far without seeing some beautiful gathers. Look how pretty that is. Once again, that shearing foot really allows those gathers to stand at attention. And I think that whenever I create gathers and I incorporate them into my projects, I always like to know that they're going to stand up straight, really make such a beautiful show. That's your shearing foot. If you have that shearing foot, I know that you love it. If you don't have it just yet, go out there and pick up that shearing foot. It is really a showstopper and a very easy addition to making those gathers look much more pristine. Now, next, I want to share with you a really easy way to gather with a chain stitch. I'm going to slip this little presser foot aside for now. I'm going to set a couple of my other things that we already did together aside also. This machine is actually 2 machines in one. I have all of my overlock capability as well as my cover stitch chain stitch capability. So we're going to just cut all of our threads, and I'm going to slip my standard presser foot on for just a second while I clear those serger threads that we've just clipped. Fast and easy. From a 4-thread overlock to a gather stitch really quickly. We're only going to need 2 threads for this technique. I'll place one of my threads on my chain looper, and I'll place the other one on my chain needle. I'm going to remove my knife cover. I'll place my upper looper in the down position, rotate my hand wheel a couple of times, and now we'll be using the chain looper instead of the upper looper. We're only going to need 1 needle, and I'm just going to switch those up into the cover stitch side of the machine. But again, we only need 1, so I'm going to slip 1 aside for now, and we'll place our other one in the chain needle 2 position. Again, very quick and easy. Now that I've installed that needle there, let's lock our blade down. I don't need to cut anymore because this technique is going to allow us to gather down the center of a piece of fabric. Yes, you're going to love it. Yes, you are. I need my sewing table. Let's slip that onto my serger. I'm already set up for gathering, so my differential feed is adjusted to 2, and my stitch length is also adjusted to 4. Let's thread our threads. I think that gathering is definitely something that I learned and started so many years ago and just really excited me. So I think that being able to gather with my serger really does give me a little extra time because it happens so much quicker on my serger than if I had to adjust and gather pulling threads by hand if I'm actually gathering a little skirt. So yes, it is definitely a favorite way of gathering items that I want to incorporate into some of my projects. Now I'm going to also change over to my cover chain stitch foot. You'll notice this little foot is a very narrow foot. So even if I want to use a chain stitch for some standard straight stitching, I love this little foot. It's like a very nice little piece of candy. But it's so professional, it's so easy and precise to sew down the center of a piece of fabric using this presser foot. Let's thread our needles. We're already in threading mode. We'll cut our little thread. I don't need a really long piece of thread for threading my needles with the revolutionary threading. We're threaded. All right, back to serging. Need a little bit of fabric. So first, we're going to just take a long strip of fabric. And once again, I went ahead and finished the outside edges with some very beautiful coordinating decorative thread. Now, whenever we rethread a chain stitch, you always want to just slip a little piece of fabric underneath it to get your thread and stitch going. But that's exactly what we're going to do. I've slipped fabric up underneath the presser foot, and then we're just going to gather. This is always a showstopper. You will get lots of oohing and awing when they see your gathering. Look how pretty that is. And again, I've gathered down the center of a piece of fabric. Isn't that beautiful? Just gorgeous. I can take it over to my iron, give it a little press. And if you really even want it to gather more, you can run it through a second time. That's exactly what I've done here. And I think it's a really fun way to create even more gathers with your chain stitch if you would like to. So you might want to do that at home. Now there's another technique that I really enjoy using to create textured fabric on some of my projects. So let's grab a wider piece of fabric. We're going to gather down the center. So we've gathered down the center. Now we're going to gather down both outer edges. And whenever I do this technique, whenever I serge this technique, I only have just standard fabric, a strip of fabric, a longer strip of fabric with no edging. Now, you know, we're usually pressing wrinkles out of fabric, but for this technique, I like to tug on the outer edges of the fabric to create a very pretty gathered foundation. Now, I want to share with you what I've actually created using this type of accent and application. I'll set that aside for now, and I'm going to slip my Triumph off to the side as well. And really quickly, let me just show you a few of my favorite things. Look how, again, beautiful, gathering with your serger, creating ruffles. It is a must. Who doesn't want to have beautiful, beautiful pillows? Now, gathering with a chain stitch. Got to show you a couple of these real quickly. So here's that little accent by serging down the center of one long strip of fabric. This is what I like to call serger, a little peasant to serger perfection. This little peasant dress is no longer a peasant dress. It is fabulous. Here I have a little pillowcase dress. Gathers on the bottom. Again, doesn't it make it look beautiful? Now let's also look at a must-have, a must-do. If you've never created little pants, I've gathered these, again, placed them on the legs. These are precious for children, but I think you and I could wear some just like these in an adult pair as well. Maybe pajama pants, or who knows, maybe you want to make a fashion statement sporting your gathers. Here is a really quick chain stitch of that, but let me show you this before Linda comes back on. And this is one of my latest things that I have really enjoyed creating. So look close. I've gathered that foundational fabric using the chain stitch that you and I just created together. But look close. The Baby Lock Applaud Sporting here, I have that creative top cover stitch. How many of you have smocked? I like to say I've smocked till I drop, but now I can create some beautiful accents after I've created a gathered foundation and now stitching with decorative threads on the top of a foundation of fabric. I think this is a win-win. What do you think? Linda, what do you think? Is this neat or what?
I have to tell you, Laurie, it's absolutely mesmerizing. You did such a great job, and I've been looking through all of the comments, and I have to tell you, there are people out there that can't get enough of you and your teaching style. And guess what? You don't have to do without it. We've got all kinds of fun things that we know about Laurie. First of all, in the chat, if you've been watching, you'll see that Laurie is the host of the Serge Fun Club. I mentioned that early on before when she came on. So check it out because, Laurie, you're having your big birthday party tomorrow, right?
We are. So I say keep this party going and join us tomorrow. I think y'all placed the link in the comments as well.
Yeah, and I would also say that there's another opportunity to win a Baby Lock Serger. So if you didn't win one today, and our drawing will be at the end of the broadcast, there's another chance that you could win if you attend the Serge Fun Club party. And the other thing I want to mention is that for those of you who are avid Baby Lock followers, you probably already know that we have a very active in-person and virtual consumer education programs that we offer under the guise of our getaways. And Laurie is teaching 2 different Serger getaways. One's this month in April. There's another one that's in May. We've got all that information also on the chat, or just head on out to babylock.com and check out the dates, because I know that for those of you who really want to learn a little bit more about Sergers, even if you don't own one, she's the perfect person to take you through all those steps. What do you think, Laurie?
I think we're going to have so much fun over at Baby Lock headquarters. So if you want a little treat yourself, come and join me. And quite a few of you probably at Baby Lock will be popping in as well to say hello. We're going to have lots of fun there. And don't forget to register for our birthday party tomorrow afternoon. Sit back, you know what, relax with us tomorrow as well.
Yep. Sounds like a great invitation. Laurie, I'll let you go finish all the planning for your event. Thank you for spending so much of time today and your incredible knowledge about Sergers. So as we say goodbye to Laurie, this is an opportunity for all of you that are at a retailer store to get a little bit of an eyeful of some content that we want to share with you. We've got some videos coming up that we're going to be playing. So never will this broadcast be dead. But if you're at a retailer store, you might want to get out of your chair and talk to them about which Baby Lock Serger you want to take home. I know they'll be happy to help you do that. We'll see you guys in just a little bit, and let's just roll the videos. One of the questions that I get asked all the time as a Baby Lock Serger expert is, why do I need 8 threads on a serger? Well, if you're looking to do up to 87 different stitch combinations, then maybe that would be your answer. But the reality is that our Baby Lock Triumph and also our Accolade Sergers, they have 8 threads on them, because what it really does is it allows you to do everything that an overlock machine can do and everything that a cover and chain stitch machine can do. If you look at my display, what you'd probably notice is I've got 2 different colors of thread on my machine in the center, which is the Triumph. All of the threads that are in green allow me to use those positions to do all the standard overlock stitches. And all the threads that are in gold, well, those are my cover and chain stitches. And so you have a choice when you're shopping for a serger. Do you want a combination machine, or do you want a machine that is task specific? And so I will just share with you that if you look at my Baby Lock Acclaim, this machine can do all the stitches that my Baby Lock Triumph can do, including the wave stitch when it comes to the overlock areas. And if you look at my Baby Lock Euphoria with all of my gold threads, just know that all of the stitches that are in the Triumph, which are cover and chain related, can also be done on the Euphoria, whether it's a triple cover hem, a wide cover hem, a narrow cover hem, or even a chain stitch. And what's so wonderful about those stitches is that they can be beautiful decorative stitches as well. So what you get with the Baby Lock Triumph is actually 2 machines in one. And if you look closely, you'll notice that I have all 3 of my threads threaded with my gold thread, which is the cover and chain portion of the machine. I also have both of my needles for the overlock portion, both my overlock needle number 1 and 2 threaded. So I have essentially 2 machines in one on this machine, and they're all completely threaded. So let's take a look at what this looks like. So when you're stitching with a serger, anything that's overlock stitches, that's pretty much always on the edge of your fabric, and that's what's going to finish off the edges. So whether you're doing a 4-thread overlock, 3-thread overlock, narrow rolled hem, flat locking, and so many more stitches, they're always on the edge. And again, we already talked about the cover stitches, they're always within the body of your fabric. These are beautiful stitches. And so you can see that this looks very much like the stitches that I did on the Euphoria, and this is identical to the stitches that I did on the Baby Lock Acclaim. Again, it's 2 machines in one. And to show that to you, I'm just going to cut up between my 2 different stitches and show you that what I have is an overlock machine and also a cover and chain stitch machine. And look at how beautiful these stitches are. So the biggest decision that you have to make when you're shopping for a serger, or if you even want to upgrade the serger that you already own, is number 1, how much room do you have in your sewing space? If you don't have much, may I recommend a machine like the Triumph, which will give you both worlds of a cover and chain stitching in addition to overlocking stitches. If you already have a serger that you really love that's an overlock machine, perhaps it's time for you to get a cover and chain stitch machine, because you'll be able to do so many more techniques. It's really about when you dream of creating and making sure that you have all the right tools to make those dreams come true. Be sure to talk to your Baby Lock retailer. They can show you all the serger options that you have so that you can take home the best machine for you.
Everybody, Chris from Baby Lock here, and I am super excited today to show you one of our newest accessories to our Baby Lock serger line. This is what we call the overlock table, and I have to tell you, this was a huge game changer for me as a sewist, spending time on my serger, which is something I love to do. So really, what is this? Well, it is the combination of this cutting blade table, you can see the cutting blade table portion here, and our flat sewing table that we typically use on that chain and cover stitch side, right? They're combined together to form this hybrid table, what we call the overlock table. So let's see how we attach this table. The first thing I'm going to do is open my doors, and on the cutting blade table, or if you have the sewing table on, you'll notice that you have 3 tabs. You're going to press that center tab that has lines on it, press in, pull towards you, remove your table, and now I'm going to attach that overlock table. Again, you have those tabs that sit right here. Center tab goes in the center position, line everything up, and slide that in. Push it down to make sure it's secured. Then you're going to close that door, close the second door, and now you can immediately see that I have a beautiful flat surface. And for me, when I was sewing, I always struggled with hanging onto my fabric here, but now I can put both hands here. I have the ability to use that upper looper, so again, I'm using those overlock stitches. I still have a position for that cutting blade, so I can still trim my fabric, and you'll notice that we have 2 sets of screw holes. Now this came over from that sewing table. The front set allows me to use things like the single and double fold bias binders, or something like that plain hemmer, or the fabric guide. And when I started out, this is really where I started, was using the fabric guide. And what it did for me was it improved my seam allowances. I didn't have to use those markings here or figure out where on my machine I would place the edge of my fabric. fabric guide was in place. Once it was aligned, I placed the edge of my fabric there, and I was off and running, and I have to tell you, my seams were accurate from the beginning to the end. Then you have a second set of those screw holes, and where those come in is with what we call our knit woven binders, which were binders that came over from our cover stitch only machines. So you can already see, wow, this really is something. It really is going to be that game changer for me, because now I can not only use these attachments if I have a cover stitch machine with that chain and cover, but I can use them with overlock. So you have just expanded your creative possibilities on your machine. And the great thing about this is on the overlock side, it is what I would call very unique look, and that for me was a plus. As a sewist, I always want to be different from what you see in the mass markets. I want my stuff to look unique. I want it to be creative. I want it to be that wow factor. And you now have the ability to have that wow factor on your machine. So, other thing that was really exciting is you can still use all those great decorative threads, but because you're doing an overlock, you have more opportunity to see those wonderful decorative threads and see that wonderful decorative edge finish. And just like you have with overlock and that chain and cover, your fabric choices or fabric options are still that expanded list or whatever you can use. But again, you're using attachments, so some attachments will lend themselves better to other fabrics than others. So those are things that you're going to have to consider. If you choose, you can remove the overlock table by simply opening the two doors, placing your finger on that tab, pulling out. But I have to tell you, mine now lives on my machine. I've become very used to having both hands, especially that right hand controlling that fabric for me. You are going to love using the single fold bias binders or the double fold bias binders, the plain hemmer, the single fold downturn feller, and other attachments on this machine. So please make sure to visit your local Baby Lock retailer to take a look at this wonderful new accessory. Bye, have fun.
Hey everyone, it's Linda Piccini, and this time I've got a series of tips that I'm going to share with you, and this is all about cover and chain stitching. So to begin with, I'm going to show you a couple techniques that I think are invaluable, especially when you're sewing on knits and you're sewing in the round. So a top like this that I'm wearing is one that you definitely want to be able to finish off the hem by going in the round. And the first tip that I have for you is how to go in the round without making yourself crazy. A lot of people like to turn their project inside out, and then you're thinking like, how do I line up the foot? Don't do it. Leave your fabric with the pretty side out, and let me show you how to line things up in such a way that you're going to be able to go around in a circle, end things beautifully. And I've got a really good tip for you at the very end. So the first thing I'm going to start with is the fact that I've already chain stitched. So my stitching is all collected together. And what I want to do before I start stitching on my fabric is I want to make sure that I've got some loose ends. Here's tip number one. With my needles in the highest position, I'm going to take my hand wheel on the side of the machine. I'm going to rotate it until my needles are down inside of the machine. Stop right there. Then I'm going to take it and I'm going to rotate backwards just until the needles are up. And what that does is it releases the chain. So now what I can do is raise my presser foot, and look at this. I can pull my threads out. They're not all squashed together, and it makes it really easy to slide my fabric underneath. I think you'd like that tip. The next thing I'm going to do is I've sewn a little mock sleeve here, and I've got this so that I'm just kind of tucked up a little bit. So I'm not teaching you how to get a perfect hem right here, although it is something that can be done. I just want to show you how to be able to get this to manage. So I'm going to slide my fabric underneath, and quite honestly, I like to start kind of in the neighborhood of where my seam is. So on a top like this, my seams underneath are over here, right? And so who really cares if that doesn't look perfect, because you're not really looking at that anyway. So I always start there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up my sleeve, and I'm going to take my fabric and I'm going to pull it so that it's right around where that hem is and lower it. Now watch what I'm doing. I'm just going to work in little small pieces like this, and I can go around in a circle. Now, when you first get started, if you notice that your fabric doesn't want to move, do yourself a favor and give it a little bit of a tug on the back. The reason why it's doing that is because there's a little throat space that's open, and when you've got the bulk of a couple seams, it might be just kind of hitting against that. It's simple mechanics. It's not going to go anywhere unless you kind of ease it through. That's okay. And once you've got it done, you can go ahead and stitch. Now, a couple things that I like to point out to people. You can kind of feel if there's an extra layer of fabric underneath a single layer. Like if I close my eyes, I can feel that, right? And what you can do if you want is you can use the little notches on the toe of your foot, and actually that's exactly where your needle is. So even though, like I said, I'm not teaching you how to hem around something, I'm gonna go ahead and work in that direction. So I'm gonna kind of go over here, and I can feel my extra layer, and all I'm gonna do is, as I'm going around, I can feel it. I'm lining the toe of my foot up so that it matches it. And as you can tell, I'm just going around. So you might be thinking, sure, that's easy. You got a big old opening. I'm telling you right now, try it. Even on something small like a child-sized garment, you can do this going in the round. The trick is, don't try to do something inside out. It gets kind of complicated and confusing. Now, another thing I'm going to tell you, if you watch my tip from earlier, it was a completely separate video. I talked about the value of the foot, and so I'm using the Teflon foot because it just glides over this brush knit. And now when you get to the very end, you're going to notice that I'm coming right up to where my stitches were before, and I've got my chain looper thread down there. Now here's my other little tip. I'm going to guide so that my stitches that I did previous are going to line up right here. And as I see that coming to the window, right, I can tell that it's there. All I have to do now is I'm going to rotate my hand wheel towards me until I've got my thread, my needles in the highest position. The next thing I'm going to do is I like to reach and get my Allen wrench that's inside of my machine. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise my presser foot, and I like to take my hand and just pull those needle threads towards me. And then I'm going to slide my Allen wrench between my foot and the needles themselves, and I'm going to pull those forward. Well, once I do that, I can cut my threads. I can pull this straight out to the back. And what that essentially does is it locks my stitches. So all I have to do now is, well, you can tell that I didn't meet it really good. This is a lesson, it's not perfection. But guess what? What if you really did something and you didn't like how it looks? So let's kind of inspect this. Remember, I said I wasn't going to teach you how to hem, but as I could feel it, I did a good job. So you can too. Now, what if you really care about the stitching, and what if it really does look terrible, and the last thing you want to do is walk around wearing something that you made and have people go like, wow, you did a kind of a lousy job, didn't you? Here's the trick. This last tip is going to be, how do you rip out stitching that you did? And I'm going to show you on this fabric because I think you'll be able to see the stitches a lot better. I'm going to open up my stitch length to make it just a skosh longer so you can really see what I'm doing. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just stitch down my fabric. Now the trick to be able to getting things ripped out easily is know where you ended. And I'm ending on this edge of the fabric. So the end that I stopped at is this one here. And this is how you rip stuff out. The first thing you want to do, and you could even do this if you went around in the round, or let's just say you're partly through going all the way around and you realize it's a disaster, stop right there and do this. What you want to do is you want to cut the threads so that you've got nothing down here, right? And it's going to start lifting pretty easily. But what I'm going to tell you to do is just take the first couple stitches that you've got out. Once you've broken those stitches, it's really easy to grab your chain looper thread. I'm going to grab this guy here and watch. And now you can do it the right way. So that's a lot of tips for somebody who's got a cover and chain stitch. Practice makes perfect. Don't be afraid of your machine. Don't be afraid to try something. And if it doesn't look good, rip it out. That's a tip from me to you, and I will see you next time.
I love my Baby Lock sewing machine. It does the best job overcasting the edges of my ravelly fabrics. Perfect.
I think my serger can do that. You mean like that?
But can your serger gather like this? Fabulous!
We'll try. Oh yeah, I got your gather, and I can adjust it too.
Okay, I'll give you that, but I bet you can't make piping like I can. Nailed it!
Okay, I'll give it a shot. Wow, I guess I can.
That's a good looking cord. How about a narrow rolled hem? Narrow enough for you?
That's my favorite stitch. Now that's what I'm talking about.
All right, how about hemming a knit shirt? Perfection.
You almost had me there. Watch this. Now that's what I call a professional looking hem.
Yeah, you're right. That looks pretty awesome.
I absolutely love the speed that my serger gets things done.
And while I love the precision of my sewing machine, I can really see why I need a serger too.
Well, I knew you'd come around.
All right, one final challenge.
Bring it on.
Buttonholes.
Okay, so is anybody asking themselves, why did they stop the video? Why don't they show buttonholes? You can't do a buttonhole on a serger. I don't know if you had fun watching those. I certainly did. It's kind of amazing how many different hairstyles I can have in my career at Tacony. Anyway, that was a fun little break. Hopefully, if you're at a retailer store, you had a chance to get a little snack. I've been seeing lots of comments. There are so many people that want to own a Baby Lock serger. And if you're worried about tariffs and prices going up on the machines, they're on sale right now. I would rush to a retailer store or check them out on babylock.com. Get a serger before the tariffs make all the prices go up. Enough for that. All right, so you probably noticed that my set is really beautiful behind me, and I have to say we are so happy to present for this next part of our serger Sip and Sew event is we've got the fabulous Chris Tryon with me here.
Guys.
So Chris, everybody was sending love about getaways.
Oh,
they were like, I got it with Chris. It was so much fun.
Yeah, they're lots of fun.
They are lots of fun.
Yeah, it's a great way to see what people are doing, what they want to do.
But what you do, what she really does well is she inspires people. And I think that what I love is seeing all the different creative ways that you use a serger. So far in this event, what we've been doing is you probably maybe noticed it, especially if you're a serger fanatic, you probably noticed that we started with the Baby Lock Vibrant. We started with all the regular overlock stitches. This is the first foray into serging for a lot of people. Many people don't really progress past that, and that is okay. The cool thing about having a good machine is that it can grow with you, right? And so then we started doing some other segments. We had Deb Bone Harris that was showing flat lock, which they're going to be wowed because you've got some amazing flat lock samples that we're going to show. But I'm just saying that, like, when it comes to sergers and serging, it's really about finding that machine that you will grow with. Like, don't worry about what your skill set is today. Where I am today in my sewing journey is a light years away from what I had. Right?
And I would have to say the exact same thing. Don't sell it short in a sense. You know, look at going past what you currently do, because I guarantee you'll be there in a really short period of time. Because I really think the serger, when you have the stitches and you start working with threads and the accessories and the attachments, I think it inspires you to push yourself a little bit. At least for me, it inspires me to push myself a little bit further. What can I do? What can I do that's different? What can I do that, I mean, how can I copy something that I might see in ready to wear? How can I do all of these things? And that's what, had I gone down, I think that I would have sold myself a little short in a sense.
And you and I are kind of the same in that we both, and you do have those options as a Baby Lock customer. You have those options of buying a machine that can be like task specific. Like you could get an overlock machine, then you can have a machine that does cover and chain stitches, which like so we have to admit, like I'm a triple serger owner. How about you?
Yeah,
right?
I do have 3
but,
set up.
But that doesn't have to be you today, right? That could be you future. But today, think about what it is that you want to do. But know that if you end up with a 4-thread overlock machine, you have a choice about what you want to do when it comes to cover and chain stitch. There's 2 choices. There's the Euphoria, and then there's the Applaud.
Well, and then you can also, then if you want to, you can go to something like a combination machine.
Like the Ovation, which is now a retired machine.
The Accolade, you can do the Accolade or the Triumph. Yeah.
All right. So we wanted to talk about some of those things. First of all, just to kind of like get your creative juices going, because now what's going to happen is, and this is what I love about, because your samples inspire me. Like I see things that you do, and I think I want to do that myself. And even if like you are a big garment sewer, but you do a tremendous amount of home decor.
Correct.
And you do a lot of machine piecing on quilts, and we don't even have
I don't have anything.
Here.
Yeah, I kind of grew up in that world. Yeah.
We had to kind of pare it down. All right, where do you want to start?
So I think if we start on the left and go that way, that will probably be the easiest.
Okay, so let's get started over here then.
So this is actually, we introduced this year the Baby Lock Applaud, which is probably one of my favorite machines, and it's hard to say something's your favorite, but I think for me it was just, I was able to really push my creativity. I was able to expand that just a little bit. So that's where I've kind of gravitated towards. And then I'll just move on to another machine and just keep doing that.
So like a little side note, I just think everybody should know this, is that, Chris, you worked in education for a long time.
Correct.
But your role at Baby Lock today
has changed.
Yeah, because she's working in product, right? So you are actually a part of the product development team, along with Charlie Dupree, who I just love. Yep. But you were instrumental in the development of this machine.
I had this machine probably about 1.5 years before it was actually introduced. So I got the first prototypes on it.
Which is why you have so many great samples, because you push it to the limit. Okay.
Exactly. So this was actually my first sample that I did on the Applaud, and this was probably prototype number 2, because prototype number 1 didn't work very well. And I had to figure out, okay, so what can I do that's simple, easy, that would relate to anybody looking at it? And it's, loungewear or activewear, whatever you want to call it. And rather than just using that standard cover stitch to hem it, or in a sense, just a straight stitch, I chose to do that top cover with one wiper just to get a different look. And when I started looking, I thought, okay, well, this would be something that I would probably buy in a boutique. So I started calling it the boutique stitch, because it is just such a unique stitch, not only to our industry, I mean the sewing industry, but I think it's also unique to just the industry in itself when it comes to clothing, or just what would they call soft goods.
Right.
Yeah.
And so in most cases, you're gonna hem.
Correct.
You have to hem your
clothing, you have to hem it.
But you made the hem the focal point.
Correct.
And it's up here around the neckline.
It's on the neckline. I did it along the shoulders there. And then this pair of pants had a tuxedo, so it had an extra band in the middle. So I thought, okay, well, let's just jazz that up too. And it's something that can go from day to evening if you want to. Just change your shoes and you're set. You're set to go.
So if you're not a garment sewer, but you want to be able to use those techniques on something else, you've got, this is eye candy to me. All right, let's talk about your pillows.
Yeah. So if anybody that knows me knows that one of the things I love to do is pillows, and the reason I like to do them is they're easy canvases. It's a great way to try a technique out in a small area, and then I can take that even bigger onto a garment or something else. So I always start by deciding, okay, what's my fabric? What techniques do I want to use? What cording might I want to use? What threads I want to use? And then I do it on little test samples on my fabric that I'm going to use in my project. And then from there I go. So in this case, what I did was, this is just the narrow cover stitch, this back gray pillow, just in a crisscross pattern. And you can see just by doing that crisscross pattern on top of itself, you get something that looks like it's actually part of the fabric. And that's always kind of my goal, is to have it look like it's actually the fabric. Yeah. And the same thing with the gold pillow. This is using those cording micro insert feet,
which we haven't shown yet, but we're going to.
You're going to see a little bit of that later on when I do that. And I created kind of a pattern so it looks like it's actually that fabric. I mean, it's woven woven in there. And if anybody's bought high-end home decor fabric, you know that you're paying upwards of 75 plus a yard. So I think that that's pretty fun. And this was just an easy bolster. It was just using the chain stitch, and it might be kind of hard to see the stitching. It was a yarn in there. And again, just creating a pattern with that stitch so it looks like it's actually part of the fabric.
Yeah, and I love this. I'm going to
the
point
belt
this
loops.
out.
Yeah, that was fun. And that's using, and this is the fun part, is that's the belt loop binder, the 1 3/4 with the micro insert foot. So the cording is on top. So I was able to use, and this kind of expands what the machine can do, or in this case, is that you can use two functions together to create one
Yeah, because honestly, Chris, a lot of people are going like, I'm not making pants with belt loops. Why would I need that binder? But you use it all the time.
Yeah, you see the other one there.
Yeah.
And then this one, again, is just to get that taping insert in a sense. And then I took ribbon and I stitched it down actually with the chain stitch using one thread in that wiper and then the belt. And then
it's all the texture and all the threads. So if you are a fiber person and you like to explore with different threads and techniques or texture, like this is your machine.
Yeah. And then what I do is, everybody here knows too, is not only do I decorate one side, I also do the other side. So I have so I can turn it over. And I have that in my house too.
Yeah,
because I get tired of looking at the same pillow all the time. So if I turn it over, I have a completely new ensemble.
Yeah, that's
and then you flip it. Yeah. And then you flip it over, and on the other side.
Yeah.
And
I'll hold this.
This one, it's just kind of just a crisscross. And then it was that top cover. And then I did the chain stitch on top of it. Yeah. And then on this one, this is probably, you might have seen that one side, but this is actually the 28 millimeter single fold bias binder with fusible threads in that chain looper, and it's fused down. I put these on first for anybody that's going to ask. I had to mark where each one of them went, and they're just tiny little belt loop things. Or little buckles, I should say.
Yeah. All right, gorgeous.
Okay.
All right, so let's
move on over there.
A little bit over here.
Yeah. So this is just something quick and easy. It's just a basic t-shirt shift dress that most of us would make and wear, but to change it up a little bit, rather than doing just the hem on the sleeves and on the bottom, I actually put that top cover stitch on the neckband. And I also put it on, if we can see here real quickly, on the sleeves, just to create a pattern. So when I take off my jacket and I'm wearing this black dress, I still have something that's just a little scale up from.
And so all these stitches here are using cover and chain stitch. It's the applaud. But then, of course, for those of you who are looking for the basics, this is a 3-thread overlock. Yep. The machine like the Victory could do it. So,
and that's what I do most of my knit stuff with, is a narrow. I try to do as narrow as I possibly can, because when you go wide with the stitch on a knit, especially this lightweight,
it's a bulk.
Exactly. Like Linda said, it adds bulk. So then you end up with those waves. And that's why, because that's too heavy compared to what your garment fabric actually ends up being. So that's why I do it the way I do it.
But I point that out too, because I think that one of the things that you might want to consider if you're considering a serger is that when you're sewing, when you're serging, you're using an overlock stitch for construction, and then you'll come back to hem with a cover and chain stitching. So it's that motion of going back and forth. Now, our machines are super easy to thread. And so it's easy to go from one technique to the next.
They're fast.
But if you've got the room, I always say it's about the real estate. If you've got the room in your sewing space, two separate machines is a great way to go.
Well, and I think too, it's also, confidence of having two machines. Am I able to manage threading two machines also, I think sometimes. And I think actually it's easier than changing one around back and forth all the time. Yeah, and one of the things, just real quickly, when I do my hems, one of my favorite attachments is actually that 1-inch single downturn feller, because I don't have to press my hem up. I might mark my hem, but then I can just lickety split go and my hem is
so I can
done.
imagine the questions that are coming up in the chat right now.
We have a video.
I'll just tell you that on the Baby Lock Applaud, we filmed and have up 20-something videos on the Applaud. So even if you own the Ovation, or if you own the Triumph, or the Accolade, or the Evolve, if you've had a machine for a long time, you can use those attachments. It'll work the same way. Just watch it on a different machine. And if you bought a foot kit, because we have great foot kits for our machines, that's where you'll have all the different feet and attachments you can use.
But it is the 1 inch is the one I like the best.
Okay.
And then this dress, this is really fun. So it's just gray fabric. And if I had just made this up in gray fabric, it would have been Okay, yeah. I mean, if I were on the rack, I probably would have gone past it.
Right.
But what I did was, again, with the micro insert foot kits that we have, I used the taping side of that particular kit. And I actually created a grid pattern on the bodice and then also on the sleeve. I kind of wanted to make it so that that was actually part of...
It looks like striped fabric
Exactly.
that you did stitching, but it's
Yes.
organza ribbon.
Correct.
And it's black, and that's what gives it that
Correct.
opacity, and it just looks beautiful.
And then what I did when I hemmed it, I did use that chain stitch with yarn in those wipers just to give it a little bit of a different look. And then I did have a little mistake. I didn't have enough fabric.
Okay.
So to solve it on the back, what I did was I did the exact same thing I did on the front with that pinstriping, but I used the wide taping and I put it down that seam so you don't see the seam on the backside. So it looks like it's hopefully...
It was a creative accident. Sometimes those make your project
a make it work
prettiest.
moment. Yeah, it's a step away for a little bit, come back and say, okay, how can I fix this?
Yeah. All right, so if anybody has been trolling our SewEd website and looked at any of our video content on the Applaud, you probably saw this coat, which is one of our personal favorites. This is beautiful.
Oh, this one was the one that I... This one, I will tell you, just so you know, this one probably took me about a month to just between figuring it out, marking my fabric, stitching it, unstitching it, because if a line is not straight for me, I go nuts. So I would, I would unstitch it and then I'd restitch it. So this one was definitely one of those labor of love projects. So yeah, this is just, again, it's that top cover, but in this case, I used the chain stitch and I put a yarn. And I'm going to preface this when you say yarn. This is a very fine yarn. It's also a very soft, pliable yarn. If you get something that's stiff, it's not going to be able to create that wavy pattern. And again, I had to test numerous times to get A, the right yarn, and B, the right stitch length so that I got the look that I was after. And then
let's turn it
so
around.
when we turn around the back, this is another make it work moment. Because of this grid pattern and trying to line everything up, because this is a wool, and as you know, it's kind of stretched a little bit because I did not, because there's nylon in it.
Right.
So it stretched a little bit. And then of course, when you iron wool, it will stretch a little bit too. But I couldn't get the back panel to line up. So I created a whole new pattern on the back side. And this is actually just a pivot point using, again, that chain stitch, pivoting those corners.
Yeah, because
so
you've got the needle up down.
Yeah,
and that's the beauty of that, is because
the needle positioning,
you can rotate the fabric.
makes a world of difference of turning the corners when you're using these stitches.
Another big difference between the Euphoria and the Applaud.
Correct. So so that's that one. And then to cover the seam so that you didn't see that they didn't line up, I just put that strip of fabric down there with the buckles, so that on the front,
it looks perfect.
Yeah, it's on the front and the back. Yeah.
All right, now this is one of my favorite.
That's Linda's favorite. Yeah, it's a fun pattern. But this, I use the cording insert and the cord guide plate, which I'm going to show. I'm going to demonstrate that. So I had the cord guide plate probably, let's say 6 months before anybody else had it, so we could work out the little bit of kinks in that.
Yeah, and if you're looking at it online, that's one of the new feet that we have. And if you're at a Baby Lock retailer store, hopefully they brought that in already, because we're going to demonstrate it. That's what you're going to be doing a little bit later.
That's what I'm going to be doing, showing that to you. Yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah, so that was that. And then this end one here, and then we'll go do this one last.
Yeah.
This is actually, again, just taking a standard pattern, and just by adding stitches in certain spots, it doesn't always have to be on the hem, and it doesn't always have to be down something.
Right.
You can just be in
minimal areas, right? It doesn't have to be real big.
Exactly. So then when you turn around to the back, you can see on here, that's the focal point of this pattern, is the back. So I just added stitching here. I added it on the hood, and then you have the choice between the shorts or the lounge pants. Yeah, it's kind of an interchange out.
All right.
Yeah.
So we're down here, more pillows. Okay, so I love this too, because now we're back to some overlock stitching.
This is the overlock table, and I have to tell you, this was probably one of my favorite accessories that they introduced, and it's great for seaming. I completely get that and understand that, because when I did flat lock, and I love to do flat lock, this was all done using the overlock table with the fabric
and that's what
guide.
this is. So that little video that we showed while we were kind of doing a break from our live action here, this overlock table works on the Baby Lock Ovation. It works on the Triumph. Now there's no need.
And the anniversary edition too.
And there's absolutely no need to have this actually on an overlock only machine because you actually have the ability to cut. This is so that you can use your attachments that screw down. So those holes that are there for the attachments that would customarily be used with cover and
so
chain.
that means the fabric guide, and that's where that came in, is a fabric guide. But my favorite one was the belt loop binder, because that's what was done with this. Is these are belt loop binder strips that, you know, the belt loop binder folds both edges in, but I use the overlock, and I just turned it around and did the other side, and then wove it, and you have a completely different look that you don't see in, you know, standard.
No, you would never
standard
see that
soft goods.
Yeah, and I don't want to put this back because you've got this beautiful
island. Yeah, that was done with. This is the top cover. That's the narrow belt loop binder strips, and then just the narrow top cover. These are actually were fused down to kind of create that pattern.
Okay,
in that
and
fabric.
then this one, this is flat lock stitching, and your trick, just so everybody knows, is the lace applicator for it.
Oh yeah, you said yes, exactly.
Because it gives you like a guide so that you get a perfect seam allowance.
And you can also, when you do that, I use a blind hem foot when I'm using very thin fabric because that guides it a little bit closer. But I will tell you, I did not use that with these. I actually used the fabric guide because I had that edge to keep it, you know, closer towards me.
Yeah.
You know, it takes a little time to learn these things.
Yeah.
You don't get them out right out of the box.
If you want to learn more from Chris, all you have to do is check out all the videos that she has on SewEd. We have so much content that's out there. I know we're just about finished with our segment. Are there any key pieces in here you want to point out?
I thought this was these are kind of fun. This is just ribbon that was fused, and then I'm using that creative top cover with cording here. And then that's with chain stitch. Yeah, and this could easily be put on. Renaissance ribbon, cuff of a pair of pants. You can put a cuff of a jacket. You can put it, you know, down the center of a pillow and do some panels. You can do lots of different things. And the other thing too is, and this is really minor, but when you change your thread colors when you're using that top cover. So in other words, here my needle threads match my fabric, and then I have really contrasting thread colors in those wipers. It looks like trim. It doesn't look like a stitch. So that's always something to think about when you're playing with an overlock stitch or something like the top covers. Play with those contrasts on those threads and your fabric, and you'd be surprised the kind of looks that you get.
Well, this is so inspiring. I know that you guys have got to be thinking to yourself, I want to be able to do things just like Chris does, and you can too. It's not easy to do. So seriously, you know, Lori will be teaching some techniques when she does her serger getaway. If you're brand new to serging, it's a great place to start. If you already have a baby lock machine and you have some desire to be able to do some of those techniques, check out the vast array of videos that we have on the Applaud, because you just did a phenomenal job. Chris, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You're going to be joining us in a little bit as we're going to actually do some live action on the Applaud. So you guys can all clap, because I know that that's something that you've been asking for. You want the Applaud live. She's going to do the Applaud live. I'm so excited about that. Okay, so we're going to go to a video next, and we're going to be showing some additional techniques. Call it eye candy on the Applaud. That's what's up next. Check that out.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Take all your projects to the next level with the Baby Lock Applaud Creative Top Cover Stitch Machine. Not only does the Applaud deliver all the stitches you're looking for in a cover stitch machine, triple, wide, and narrow cover stitches, in addition to a beautiful chain stitch, the Applaud's patented dual wiper system adds texture and dimension to create stunning stitches that you'd never believe were made on a serger. Create fabric with multiple rows of stitching and incorporate it into a jacket or dress. Dress up pillows, bags, and even upholstered items with stitches for a couture look. And you don't have to stop there. The Applaud can use so many of Baby Lock's serger attachments while you're stitching. Choose from the single and double fold bias binders, belt loop binders, and an array of hemming guides that will create a fast, professional finish, along with specialty stitch in the ditch micro feet and a set of cording and taping micro insert feet. And to top it off, the Applaud has so many convenience features: speed control, hands-free presser foot lifter, built-in needle threader, and extraordinary threading for effortless looper threading, needle stop up, down, and more. It's time to make the Applaud Creative Top Cover Stitch Machine a part of your sewing family. To find out more, drop into your local Baby Lock retailer or check it out online at babylock.com. Well, hopefully that video gave you a little bit more to see up close with the machine stitching in action. I know that the Applaud Serger, as one of our newest machines in our line, is one that we're super excited about because it is such an exclusive for Baby Lock. In addition to that, beginning this month, the Applaud Serger is available for sale online. And as you probably have already heard, if you've been watching Baby Lock at all, we have all of our Sergers, the 3 that we are featuring today, on sale. So check it out and get a price from your Baby Lock retailer, because I know that they're machines that you're going to love, and we're going to make sure that you do. All right, so up next, we have another Baby Lock retailer that we want to welcome to our event, and that is Sharon Willis with Be So in Tulsa, Oklahoma. For those of you who live in the Oklahoma area, or maybe in Arkansas, or maybe near their location in Houston, Be So In is a very trusted name in Baby Lock sewing machines, and they've been in business for a while. Again, another family-owned business. So, Sharon, are you here? All right. Well, if she's not ready to jump on, that is okay. Now you know who to be waiting for. So the next segment that we have up, and I know you are going to love her, and that is Deb Canham. And Deb Canham is a widely known serger expert. She's been with Baby Lock for a long time. She's independent on her own. So let's welcome Deb Canham to our Sip and Serge.
Hi. Have I got my mic on? No, hang on.
Yes, you do. You sound
I
great,
do.
Deb.
Oh,
Yes, you
I
do.
went.
Yay. You sound great. Okay. So, Deb, you probably noticed I've been walking around with these little notes, and I have things that I wanted to say. And what I wanted to say about you was the name of your Facebook group. And so you're just going to have to say it for me, since my brain is completely somewhere else.
That's okay. It's Deb Canham's Serger Projects. I almost got it wrong. Deb Canham Serger Projects.
Yeah, Deb
My
Canham. So
Facebook.
you guys, so I just want to make sure you know that. Don't jump off now, because she's here live. But I'm going to pass it over to you. But Deb, they're going to love you. We all love you at Baby Lock. I'm just going to turn it over to you. Have fun.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for asking me. And I've been watching the whole thing. It's been brilliant. So I am here to share some things I've made on the Applaud, and I'm also going to show you my favorite attachment. But I just want to say that I really got into serging for the one reason that I really loved the fact that you could use much heavier threads. And I like the decorative look of heavy threads. So you can imagine when I was introduced to the Applaud by Babylock, I was just so excited, because here I can use really heavy threads, and I have this fabulous wipers that are going to lay down my thread, which offers so many opportunities. And I don't just use thread, I use ribbon. I've got some very thin ribbon here that I've used on it in the wipers. I use the bypass, and I love that. And I've used some yarn. And of course, with all the microfeet, I have the option to do all the decorative things like put ribbon under and things like that. But I thought I'd show you a few things because I think it makes it more exciting. And I think the other thing with the Applaud is, you think, where am I going to use it? Well, you can use it everywhere. Nobody knows how far it could go. I'm still playing with it. But I want to show you that I put this zipper in using cover stitch. And can you see the decorative threads? Whoops, I dropped it. And I love that. And it really flattens out the seam, so it makes it really smooth. And I've actually, everywhere I would have top stitched, I used the Applaud and a little gold glitter thread. It's Glamour by Wonderful. And I even quilted it on the sides. So, I mean, there's so many places you can go with it. Here is a bag I did in my group, and it is all decorated with Applaud stitches, and the zipper's put in. And again, I've used one decorative thread in the wiper, not the wiper, the wiper, to get that look. And I did it in black and white, which is always stunning, isn't it? And you see how I've decorated all down. And I use different threads because I don't want to see the same thing. I want to see different all the time. So what else have I done with it? Well, I'm really into improv quilting. And this gives me the chance. This is my improv cover stitch machine because it gives me so much chance to use my improv quilting to do things. So let me show you this first. This is just playing. I do a lot of playing. I really do sew for pleasure. In fact, I'd be crazy if I didn't. But I would say that I'm not so worried about my finished product or whatever I make. It's the fun of making it that's for me. So sometimes I don't know where I'm going, which is why improv's good for me. So I just play away. And you can see here, this is a crazy log cabin. And if you look closely, you can see that I've got stitches, applaud stitches. But what I want to say about this is I didn't sew it with right sides together. I overlapped the fabrics and sewed it like that. So it was kind of more improv and more fun because I didn't really know exactly what I was going to do when I first started. And then on the back, you'll see it's super flat, super flat. It makes for less bulky seams. So that was a fun one I did. And then I want to show you this because this is another improv piece. I mean, I'm a garment maker as well. I do everything, but playing is my main thing. So this was an improv piece I did. And I thought, well, rather than sew fabric in, and I actually did this using chain stitch, rather than sewing fabric in, I'm going to put stitches in. So I did this one. I haven't done anything with it. It will be a cushion one day. So I sewed all my threads in the same way that I'd have sewn my fabrics in. Isn't that fun? I kind of wished I'd used a different color on the background because it tends to blend. But I think you can see the picture. It's just the same as the improv sewn in piece I did. And here we have, this was just a panel I did for fun because I hadn't done anything quite like this before. And again, it's improv. But the thing is with improv, all my blocks are different sizes, different shapes. And I decided, if you look closely, to use an applaud stitch to sew around the block because I wanted to accentuate that they were supposed to be irregular. And I sometimes think if you draw attention to that, it looks better than if you just leave it with people thinking, gosh, her blocks are all different shapes. And then you can see the white stitch is my stitch round, and then I put that green stitch in to fill in that gap. But when I first did this, I left it on my wall for a while, and I've really grown to love it. I think it's a great way to use the applaud to do some nice heavy thread decorative stitching. So also I've done garments because initially I was a garment maker. I then went on to make miniature teddy bears. I have one somewhere, but I don't know where it is. And then I went on to my serging journey. So with my garments, I'd like to make from scratch. So this jacket is actually one I did for a baby lock event, and it is all embossed with decorative threads and quilted using chain stitch. So I've always loved it. And also there's some serger stitches here on the cuff, but I did my piping with my cording foot. But what I love about it is all these heavy decorative threads that are sitting on it. But imagine if I was going to make that tomorrow again, I could use all my applaud stitches, which are much bigger, and I could have so much fun with it. And while I won't make this jacket again, probably, I will make something similar in time, but having fun with my applaud stitches. So it's good for garments. And then, oh, let me show you this bag we did. So this is a bag we did, and it's actually 6 blocks, and each block has a different technique. So if I put it up a bit closer, you can see I've used the wonky cabin for this section. And this one up here, do you remember those stitches I had on the improv? It's just a block of that. And then this end here, I used that ribbon I showed you. So that blue is quite heavy. It's a ribbon. And I used narrow stitches on that. And I also used the taping foot. So I've got a stitch going over that orange ribbon. So pretty cool. And then at the bottom, I've got an improv block, which I've just accentuated with more applaud stitching. And what else? Oh, yeah, of course, my favorite is the wavy lines. Do you see the wavy lines? Instead of doing straight lines, which I have here using the stitch guide, but I did wavy lines because I just think anything wavy is fun. You know, it looks playful and it's fun to do. And I'm not very good at straight lines without the stitch guide. So that was that. And then what else have I got to show you that I did on there? Oh, yes. So I had this t-shirt. Let me bring it a bit closer. This was a plain Chico's t-shirt that I bought and I never wore. So I just took it to the machine. I undid the sleeves and I sewed these heavy threads onto it. I think they're 5 weight. And then I decided to put the medallion in the center. But I like this t-shirt now. It's kind of snazzed it up. And I've got a red one that I did the same too. But it just adds some fun to it, makes it look a bit different from a regular Chico's t-shirt. And then I did my sweatshirt. This is just a $14 Hanes sweatshirt. And what I did was I cut it up the center. I decorated it up on the front and back with the applaud stitches and on the sleeves. And I actually added a woven cuff on the sleeves because I like woven cuffs. They kind of smarten up a sweatshirt. And then you can see I used a binding on the bottom and a binding around the neck. And the pockets are actually 3 different fabrics. And I sewed them together with my applaud stitches. So just a fun way to upcycle something. And then the one jacket I haven't shown you because I don't know where, oh, here it is I made this one, which is really nice. It's made out of boiled wool. And you can see it has a great big infinity scarf type collar to it. And I decorated all of that with decorative stitching on the applaud. And I did the sleeves. And then because this is boiled wool, I love boiled wool to wear. But I like it. I like a finish to my edges. You know, often you see them without anything. But I had a jacket years ago that had blanket stitch on, so I used my serger to do a blanket stitch on all the edges. My arms aren't long enough. So yeah, so that was super fun. So you're only limited. You know, the thing I like about it is I can make it look different just by using different thread. So that is fun. So what I'm going to show you on the machine is how to do that neck binding. So I have my sweatshirt here, and you can see that I have done the binding on the bottom. Okay. And now I'm going to do the binding on the neck. And what I'm going to do is I am going to use the my favorite attachment, which is the knit woven double fold bias binder. Okay, not to be confused with the double fold bias binder. Okay, they're different. I'm talking about the knit woven because the knit woven will do curves. And obviously with a neck, I've got a curve. So you can use this attachment, and that's something else to say about the applaud, that I also I use the applaud to make my straps. I can't actually see it. My straps for my bags and things, and then use my decorative threads to make that nice stitch on the strap. So what I was going to say was a lot of the attachments, nearly all the attachments that you have for the cover stitch machine will fit the applaud, and you can add stitches to it. And of course, I'm sure Chris has mentioned that you can change the ankle on the foot to use your snap-on feet from your Triumph or Euphoria or whatever. But I'm using wipers because if you look at this binding, and I mean, why wouldn't I? It's just as easy to do it with a wiper. Can you see the stitch on top of the binding? So that's what I'm going to do around the neck. And I have a couple of things to say about that. Here we go. I made this pinafore some time ago. And to finish it, I just used the binder, so I just bound all the edges. So this is a curved edge. So I cut my strip to put in my knit woven binder on the bias because it's going around a curve. But when I go straight, I don't cut it. I just cut it straight across the grain. Okay. And I know you did some nice gathering with Laurie. There's some puffing that I did on this. And I always think that would look really good in a shift dress, a plain summer shift dress. I haven't done it yet, but it's one of those things that's been on my mind for a long time. I'm sure I'll get to it one day. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move you onto my other camera so you can see me demo it. And anybody that knows me knows I love demoing, not. Something normally goes wrong, but I'm planning on having a good day today. So I'm just going to get my camera set up and I'll change it over and you'll be able to see how we do it. So just let me find the right camera. Takes a second. There you go. So just let me do that just to make sure it's focused. Move it back a bit. So this is the knit woven binder, and people are often scared by it, and I think it's just because it's big, but it's actually really easy. There's only two things you need to know. One, it has to be totally straight. And secondly, this section here where the fabric's going to go through needs to be directly opposite the needles so that it can feed back there. Now, I have had people say to me, oh, if you put a Lego block here and stick it down, then it stays in. But the fact is, if you set this up to perfection, you don't need a Lego block. You shouldn't. It will just do its job. And that's actually why, another reason why I love the serger so much, because all of the attachments that we use, if you set them up properly, they work a treat and, rarely give you problems. I'm really setting myself up good for this, aren't I? So here we have the neck. And what I always do on something like this, where I've undone a neckband from a sweatshirt, is I am going to go over it with 3-thread overlock. And I'm going to up my differential feed just to pull in any stretch that might have happened when it got sewn in the factory or as I was undoing it. So here we are, we're set up. I've cut my strip. Now, I needed to test my strip to make sure it was the right width. And because I'm going around a curve, I cut it on the bias. And I'm going to feed it in with the wrong side facing me. And I'm going to put it into the section here. I'm going to slide it down. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at it. And can I see that I've filled the whole of that section? Okay, now I know that is the right width. So I'm going to feed it in using my Allen key. You just get in the habit of doing certain things. Now I have sewn on this, so I do have a thread chain. So I'm going to lift my foot. I'm going to hold onto my thread chain, not here, not at the side, but right at the back. And I am just going to release some pressure on the needle threads. And that just allows me to create a gap underneath to get the fabric back and under the foot. So I'm going to grab the fabric, going to pull it straight back under the foot and put my foot down. And I have already tested it because I didn't want to take up any time. Right. And I'm actually, even though I've tested it, it's always different every time you use it. I'm just going to move it over just a fraction because I don't want my stitch right on the very edge. I don't do stress. So I'm going to take the end of my sweatshirt, which is here, and I'm going to feed it in to this concave area here. And I'm going to hold on to this end so that it doesn't fall down. It's pretty good. And I'm just going to stitch round. And this is not difficult. The machine is doing all the work. If I was using a knit, I could, it also stretches it for you, which if you've ever made a knit neckband, you know that it does need to stretch, otherwise it'll stand up like a vicar's collar. So the machine does all the work for you. Now I'm using a woven, but because it's cut on the bias, it does have a little bit of stretch, which it needs to go around the curved neck. And I'm coming up to the shoulder seam, and I'm not panicking, but I'm aware it's there. So I'm just being careful, going slow. It will deal with it without any problem. And I'm just going to carry on going round. Just letting the machine go at its pace. Coming up to the next shoulder. I've got that thicker seam, but it won't be a problem. And then we're coming down the final stretch. And what I didn't tell you was how long to cut your strip. And this is what I'd say to you: cut your strip seriously long, because you want to start stitching, check your stitchings in the right place. And once you know it is, then just continue to put your band on. And you can see I'm running a little bit short here, but I know I'm going to be safe. But it does make it more exciting. And I'm good. I'm just going to run the rest of the strip out. Cut my threads. And now I have it. Perfect. And that's what I love about it. It's really perfect. And I had to make so little effort to get it perfect. All I did was hold on to one end and put the green bit in. But isn't that fabulous? And then on the back, there you have it. So what's not to like about using a knit woven binder? So I'm going to bring you back to me. Going back. Oops. Linda, I think you come in and cut me off, but that's okay.
All right. Well,
I'm
hey,
here.
Deb, that was fantastic. That was absolutely fantastic. I love your style. I love everything that you showed. And I know that everybody is just having a great time. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. And stick around for the rest of the broadcast so you can watch some of the other great stuff we have coming up. Thanks, Deb. All right. So without further ado, I want to have Sharon Willis join us from Be So In Tulsa, Oklahoma. Tulsa, Oklahoma. Are you there, Sharon? You have to unmute yourself. We were telling her to be quiet the whole time, and now you have to unmute yourself. Are you there? You have to. Yeah. Sharon, you have to be unmuted.
You didn't hear all the excitement then.
Sharon, you have to be unmuted.
Can you
There
hear me?
you are.
You didn't hear all the excitement then.
Hey, everybody in Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's so fantastic.
Yay, Tulsa.
Yay, Tulsa. All right, how's it going, everybody? Are you enjoying the broadcast? How's it going, everybody? Are you enjoying the broadcast? Yes. All right. Yeah, take it away, Sharon. Take it away.
Okay, my name is Sharon Willis. Okay, my name is Sharon Willis. You've got both of them on. I'm the store manager here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Be So In is an. Store manager here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Be So In is an. I hear multiple recordings going.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Hey, Sharon, the reason why you're getting that feedback is because you are getting that reverb from two sets of speakers coming from the same room. And so probably the audio experience is going to be great, but I know you and I know the reputation of that store in Tulsa. You guys totally rock the Baby Lock world because you take care of your customers so well, as do all of our Baby Lock retailers. I want to thank you guys for joining us. Give us one more big hello from Tulsa. Joining us, and don't go away. We're going to take you guys off screen, but what we have coming up next is what you've all been waiting for. I've been seeing it in the chat. You want to see that applaud in person, and who else could it be except for Chris Tryon, who's going to take you guys through some of the new features of the machine, which is the cord guide plate, and we're gonna go there. All right, take it away, Chris. I forgot about this one.
Have the pleasure of showing you one of our newest and latest, greatest attachments for the Baby Lock Applaud. And it's actually the cord guide plate. What this looks like is this little metal piece, and it works actually with, and you need that cording micro insert foot kit, okay? So I actually have the cording inserts out. That's your 5mm, 2.5, 2.0, and 1.6. We're going to use the 2.5, and I've actually attached that mic to my machine already. So we're just going to move this out of the way real quick. And then you can see I have that in place. I've got my machine threaded as far as my stitch. You're going to use something like the triple cover stitch. You'll use a cover stitch narrow. And then you'll also use both of those wipers. Now, this plate actually is going to fit on that sewing table. And where does that sit? It's going to sit on the two holes that are closest to you. So what that means is when you're using an insert, you need to put that insert in first, because there isn't a lot of space to do that once you have that plate in place. It has to be close to that foot in order for that cording to be guided straight forward and keep that kind of, the wobble factor if it were a little bit further away. So I'm just going to use those two white screws that come with my machine, and I'll just get this in place, and then we'll talk about positioning this. Okay. Now, as I mentioned, you can use it with the 2.5, the 2.0, and the 1.6. Now, when it comes to cording, you're going to want to match that cording roughly to that size of that insert. If it's too large, it's going to sit outside of the channels. If it's too narrow, it's going to move around in the channels. So the cording I'm using is just a polyester cable cording, and this is actually a 2.3. What I did to help insert it into the positions here on that cord guide plate is I put a little bit of tape on the end just to help me out. I'm just going to slide that in, and I'm going to probably get my hands in the way here so that you're not going to see much, but we'll slide that in, and then I'm going to grab it, and I'm going to pull it to the side. Let's raise that foot real quick here. And I'm just going to pull that off to the side, and I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. Now, I can choose to do the cording with 2 strands, or I can choose to do it with 1, and I would do that with that narrow cover stitch, using those 2 wiper threads, okay? And here comes my second one, and I'm just going to slide that right there. Now what I'm going to do is take the cording all the way to the back underneath the presser foot, and when I lower that presser foot, what you'll see is, because of that channel on that insert, that cording fits in that channel. Now my goal is to take this cord guide plate and line it up so that that cording is going straight in. And if you look at this right now, you can see it's kind of coming in at a wonky angle, and you don't want that. You really want that to be a straight on effect, because then what that does is it keeps that cording in the channel on that micro insert foot. So now that I've got it in position, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to tighten those 2 screws to hold that plate in. This is why that plate is important, because again, it's keeping that cording going forward, meaning it's not going to split and move on me if I didn't have something holding it in position. When I first got the applaud, I tried doing this with fabric, and I ended up every time with that cording moving around on me. So now what I'm going to do is just quickly is I'm going to just turn my hand wheel, and can you see what I'm doing? I'm just making a couple of stitches just to see if I need to straighten out that cording here with that cord guide plate. And how I judge that is you have the C1 needle, the C2, and the C3. So the C1 needle is going to sit on the left side. The C2 needle will go in between the two pieces of cording, and the C3 needle is going to sit on that right side. So basically they're hugging that cording as you're stitching. And again, I can see I'm still not straight, so I'm just going to kind of straighten this out just a little bit. That looks much better. When you tighten those screws, remember to do one at a time so you don't accidentally offset that. So I think I'm good here. I'm just going to take a couple of more stitches. I'm going to stop with my needle and down, raise that presser foot, and then I'm going to get rid of these needle threads. My next thing to do is actually to thread those wipers. So in my wipers, I have a decorative thread. This is actually a 12 weight. I use 12 weight for both wipers, and if I'm using a different thread type like a 6 weight or a 4 weight or possibly a 3 weight, I'll actually place that in that left wiper. Okay, so let's get this threaded and get going here. Oops. Okay, there's my first wiper. We're going to go to the second one, and then I'll place my fabric underneath the presser foot, and we'll start stitching. That's the key. Remember, when you use the cording inserts standard-wise, the cording sits on top of the fabric. In this case, the cording is going to sit underneath that fabric. I've got my marked line, so I know where I'm stitching. Fabric underneath the presser foot. I'm lining my marked line with that C2 needle, and when you look really closely at that insert, you'll also know that there are little kind of indentation lines towards the back, towards the needles, that you can use as alignment points. I'll take a couple of stitches. I'm going to stop. I'm going to get rid of these threads, and then I'll continue stitching. Oops. Let's engage that wiper positioning. There we go. And then we'll get rid of these threads, and then I will continue stitching on. And I think, yeah. So I actually have a little bit of my thread is wrapped around my wiper, but I can still show you what the end result is going to look like. So when I'm done stitching, this is actually a curve piece. And to do this, I just curved my fabric while I was stitching, and I used the outside edge of my presser foot for the space in between. Now, the crazy thing about curves is typically what happens when you're using some type of cording plate or cord guide is the cording on the underside slips out of the stitching, and you can see that that is absolutely and utterly perfect with it. And for me, that was what sold me on this cord guide plate. And then when we go to just a straight line, here's another fabric. You can see how stunning that look is with just that fabric. Now, when you're playing with fabric, a couple of things are going to come into play is the fabric itself. You're going to want to stay with a fabric that is somewhat pliable, meaning it's soft and it has a certain amount of drape. You might find that you have to go over to your tension dial and adjust that tension up from a standard of 2 to maybe a 3 or a 5, really to get that whole raised effect. Your thread is going to be another factor too. You don't want to go too heavy for the stitch. So in other words, if you use something that was maybe a 4-weight thread in both wipers on that thread is really going to overpower that look or that technique. And when I use, this is just again that straight stitch, and you can see how beautiful that is, and you can see how raised that is on that fabric, and then you see the cording that sits on the underside. So when I talked about the different widths that you have and what you can do is you can choose to use, again, that triple cover stitch with the threads in both wipers. You can choose to use one thread in that wiper, and you get a completely different look between using 2 threads versus 1 thread, and that's a triple. But what if I went to a narrow? And that's, again, you're using 1 cording in the left side, and I use the C1, C2 needle, 2 threads, and then I go to 1 thread. And again, you get a completely different look. So just with this attachment alone, with that cording micro insert foot, the possibilities of what you're able to do with that is, I think for me, was a big plus and allowed me to be a whole lot more creative with what I was doing. Now, this is the 2.0 cording insert. And when I did this one, I went to something like a rat tail in there. So when you look at the underside, it's very flat. And when you go to the top side, you can see that you've got that ridge that sits there. And then when we go to that triple, there it is. And this is actually going to be an 8-weight thread in that wiper position. And then there it is with both threads in the wipers. And then the last one was the 1.6. And on this one, I used a product called paracord. You can find that in a lot of craft stores. They make a lot of bracelets out of it. So finding the cording is always the funnest part, but you can see how pretty that is with that paracord. And that's just, again, that narrow wiper with one thread. And then you've got that narrow cover stitch with one wiper. And then you've got the narrow cover stitch with the 2 wipers. And then you've got that triple, 1 wiper, and then the triple with 2 wipers. And again, based on that fabric is how you're going to get that raised look. So it is really different, I think, than a standard cording when we did it with just the like the cover wide or the cover narrow if you were to do it, or actually the cover wide when you were doing it with on an overlock or an 8-thread machine. Sorry, I'm still on the applaud. But that is that cord guide plate. That is, I think, one of those great additions to your applaud. And then again, and a great addition, really expands this cording micro insert foot set. So that's
all right.
that.
Hey, Chris, that was fantastic.
Oh.
That was fantastic. So here's what we're going to do. I want to introduce one of the attachments that when you did the video on it, I was blown away. And that is the swing guide plate.
Oh, okay.
Because a swing guide plate, what it does is it allows you to swing the attachment away. Well, you know what? Let's just go to video.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to show it to you that way.
That's a fun one. It's a must-have. It's
all right.
definitely a must-have,
Patty,
guys.
Let's take it to the swing guide plate.
Hi, Chris here from Baby Lock, and I'm going to talk to you about the swing guide in this video. This is a great attachment that you're going to find that you're going to fall in love with. And for me, it was all about efficiency and accuracy. Now, if you'll notice on my machine, I have those 2 sets of positions. I'm going to use that front set. So any serger in the Baby Lock line that has that front set of positions, you're going to be able to use this attachment. And where that's going to align is with that slide guide right there at the top. And I know just from using it that I want to move this attachment far over to the right so that the edge of this attachment is right up against this left screw. And then I'm just going to tighten that in position. And then I'm going to put the right screw in, securing everything in place. And then I'm set. Now, if you'll notice, the types of attachments that I can use are going to be those with this type of bar or this type of guide that you would slide back and forth for alignment purposes. Something like that knit woven bias binder, whether it be the single fold or double fold, is not going to be an option because, again, that gets attached to the machine bed, meaning that top or flat table with those 2 positions that are further away from the needle or closest to you. So the first thing that I have to do is loosen those screws to separate these 2 parts. I'm not going to use that, so I'm going to set that to the side. So what happens is this piece itself gets attached to this position right here. And I'm going to use those front 2 positions. I'm going to use those same small screws that I took out. And once I get that first screw in, I think the second one is a little bit easier. They're a little tricky because they're a little on the small side. Okay, there's that first one. And if I need to test which position on the swing guide I need to use, I can just lightly tighten that first screw in and I can see that's exactly where I need that guide to be. And then I'm going to place the second screw in position. I'm going to tighten both of these down, and then we're going to take a look at what happens here. So you can see how easily that was to slide that up. Here's the other beautiful part about this is this screw right here allows me to move this to the left or right for alignment purposes. So I can kind of pre-align my guide if I need to by sliding that right about there. I'm going to tighten that screw. Okay, and I may need to adjust it once I get my fabric loaded and start stitching. Here's my bias strip. I'm going to load this. This is the beauty of this. If this were actually attached to the bed of the machine, I'd be loading up here. I'm able to bring this back closer to me to place that bias strip or fabric strip in the opening here. And grab that, slide that through, pull that through, and now what I can do is bring this underneath the presser foot, and I can visually align this prior to actually starting to stitch. Okay. And see how easy that was for alignment? Now I'm going to tighten that screw super tight, place my fabric in position, and then I'm going to start to stitch. And if I need to, after placing that fabric in, adjust it, I can certainly do that. But I can tell you, if I look at this, I am pretty dead on with that alignment. That's how easy it was. I mean, that was a one shot. Usually it takes me 2 or 3 times to get that bias strip aligned with that needle using the standard, moving this back and forth to do that. And then I'm going to stitch to the end. Here's the other fun part about this is now how do I trim that? I would have to normally stitch all of this out, and I don't want to waste that. Simply pull the attachment back, trim that bias, finish stitching, and I am done. And there's that bias right along that edge. And again, you saw how easy that was for the alignment. So that is the beauty of this attachment, is the fact that my alignment was quicker, it was more accurate, and I in this case, didn't have to waste that bias. Whether you're using one of these types of attachments, meaning the binder attachments, or using something like that plain hammer, you have that ability to bring that back so that you have an easier time loading, you have an easier time aligning, and I think it just makes it so much easier. I actually fell in love with this the first time I used it, and I use this standard now with all of these types of attachments. So make sure that you visit your Baby Lock retailer to check out the swing guide. Hi guys, so what did you think of that swing guide? It's one of my favorite accessories, and as I said earlier, it's a must-have. I think it really will help with your attachment. So I've got my machine fixed, meaning the applaud. I've got the top cover going. It happens to the best of us, and I've already stitched a row out, just checking it, and you can see while I'm stitching, what's happening is, like I said, those needles are in that position. They're kind of wrapping themselves around that cording. That cord guide plate is taking that cording right into there, and I think when you're done, the look is really just very spectacular, especially when you add those decorative threads. Make sure you visit your Baby Lock retailer for all those decorative threads, and I think that that's what we're going to look at with the stitching. It's back to Linda now. What'd you think of it, Linda?
You know what, Chris? I love that cord guide plate. The moment that I saw it, I got my hands on one, brought it home, and I'm not as creative as you, but I'm going to figure out a project to make with that. So you guys, it is time for us to bring in one of our Canadian Baby Lock retailers. We're super excited to have Brenda Miller from Among Brenda's Quilt from Ontario, Canada. So welcome to Sip and Serge. Brenda, sorry, I'm getting names confused. Are you on? So Brenda? Yeah, we'll give you a second, Brenda, because I know you guys have been sitting in the back wings waiting to go on the broadcast. And I know you've got a bunch of customers waiting there to say hello to everybody in Baby Lock Land.
Our camera's on, Linda. Is it on your end?
Okay.
We gotta let you in.
We don't see you though. So, well, that's all right. I guess we'll make lemonade here. So do you just want to give everybody a big shout out hello from Ontario?
Yes, we're going to say a big O Canada to our friends out there.
Oh, Canada! Yeah, so I know that, Brenda, you were going to talk a little bit about your shop and invite everybody to stop by. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hello and welcome, even though you can't see us, to the ABQ Sewing Studio in Strathroy, Ontario, Canada, the home of Among Brenda's Quilts and Bags. And speaking is myself, Brenda Miller, a pattern designer and past Baby Lock ambassador. And I've used Baby Lock machines to create my quilts and bags for years. And I was so impressed by their quality and reliability that I decided to open up a retail store here in Canada where the only brand we sell is Baby Lock. And that was 6 years ago this month, and I'm still just as thrilled with these incredible machines today. Now, if you'd like to actually see more of us and like to explore more about us online, you can visit our store at shop.amongbrendasquilts.com or check out my patterns at amongbrendasquilts.com. And if you ever find yourself in Ontario, we'd love for you to stop by and experience a very warm Strathroy welcome, sweeter than a fresh, gooey Canadian butter tart. So one more time. Oh, Canada!
Oh, that's outstanding. Well, thank you so much for joining in on the broadcast. I know that so many people around the US and Canada are sitting at their favorite Baby Lock retailer store, just absorbing all the fun. And from all the comments that we've been reading, I know that everybody is having a fantastic time. Well, now's the moment you've been waiting for. All right, so I've got my champagne. Guess what time it is, you guys? It is the big drawing for the Baby Lock Victory Serger, and joining me on stage right now is Tim Schomburg. Here, Tim, here's to a great Sip and Surge event. How about you, Julie? She's hiding her champagne, Sip and Surge. Anyway, so now we've got the final drawing. Julie, why don't you do the honors, please?
All right, grand prize drawing for the Baby Lock Victory. And it is Lois Desmond. Kingdom Sewing Simi Valley is where she's attending today.
Very nice. Say hi to Gina Coleman. Woo! Oh my gosh. Congratulations. And thank you to everybody. So you guys, if you've ever watched any live stream broadcast, you know that I am not satisfied until we bring everybody who's been a part of our broadcast on stage. We've all got our glasses of champagne. So give us a second to congregate here. So we are a family-owned business. Come on, Ruby. And so Tim Schomburg has his beautiful daughter, Ruby, here. Cheers to you. Cheers. She's joining us on set. Come on, Doug Thompson from the Workbench. And so you guys know some of these people as well. So this is Doug from the Workbench fame. Patty Marty, you guys know who she is. Maddie Murphy, if you watch any of our social media posts, she's the one that's responsible. Can you give us the goose voice?
Hello, I'm Bernice.
Okay. So good to see you, Bernice. And then we've got Leah Ralph. There's Chris Tryon again, Jim Hinder, our videographer. And then we also have Leslie Pallich. So thank you from all of us to all of you. Thank you very much. And then we should do the cheer, right? Yeah. Why not? Okay, here we go. Baby Lock for the love. Thank you, everybody, for joining our broadcast. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much.